And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Zaleski Sports Show. It's actually the boys basketball coaches playoff preview show. Jason Zaleski here, Dan Ross there. We've got, I was told, 9 coaches coming on the show today. This was news to me just a few minutes ago. I didn't think it was that many. Curt Schmidt of Stratford, Adam Jacobson of Marshfield, Mike Schalow of Kaukauna, Chad Brieske, Eau Claire Memorial, Chris Fischer, Marshfield, Dan Garrett, Senior, Wausau East, John Schurk, Pacelli, Joe Konieczny, Columbus Catholic, and Brian Richert of Kettle, Moraine. That's 9.
That is 9. I want to say last year we did 12 or 14, and it took like 4 hours.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a long show. I almost had to shave by the end of it.
Shave and shower. And,
yeah.
You know, in the military, you got the 3 S's. The third one I'll leave off this show. So we think we've got a good one. We'll hear from these coaches from all over the state. That's the other thing that's changed, Dan. We continue to expand into new frontiers and horizons, and we've got to limit it here somewhere. Otherwise, we'd be talking to like 30 coaches by now. If the pace of growth translated into the length of this show, we would be here till about midnight.
We'd have to have different shows for different divisions or something.
Oh. Okay, maybe next year. Probably not, though.
No, probably not.
All right, well, as you may have heard, boys basketball brackets were officially released by the association earlier today. If I could, just for a moment, Brad Hansen and team, Mark Miller, Keegan Hewitt, right?
Great
I have
job.
all the names. Awesome work. Refreshing, coming off the heels of last week's whatever that was. This was really good. So congratulations, boys, on a great show.
Yeah, produced really well, really professional. Yeah.
Whatever happened there, do that every time.
Should just do the girls and boys both from the Wausau office.
Just whatever it was, whatever the magic sauce was, the secret sauce, just do that every single time. All right, let's see here. I was told we had some people, Sawyer. So Sawyer says hi to you, Mr. Sawyer. We thought maybe Tom Sawyer. Feel free to chat with us. I've got my chat box up right here. We can answer questions, especially for this first 13 minutes or so before our first coach comes on board. We can answer questions. I know social media every year, Dan, has, these people, talking about the association, right? These people, they don't understand what's going on. They gave my team the wrong seed. And, I mean, it's been 4 years running now. Probably longer than that, but I'm just talking about since the transition from the coaches meeting to the mathematical seeds. Here they are right there in a big stack. And, yeah, I wish that we could educate everybody. We've been able to educate a lot. We're just my goal is always 100%. I know I can't get to 100%. So trust this when I tell you this. The Coaches Association are who approved this process. A couple of changes to make it a little bit better. And if you believe your team was seated incorrectly, talk to your team's coach because it's that association that has invented this process.
Yeah, and I think the process is a lot better. We've talked about what it was prior to 1998, which was they just have the brackets out, right?
Yeah.
In the summer before. So you'd have the best 2 teams in the state play in the first round, and that's just how it was. And then after that, they said, let's put the coaches in a room and have the coaches figure it out. Sometimes it almost came down to fisticuffs. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of passion and a lot of car salesmen, deals made beforehand, and it was a little corrupt, I would say.
Well, yeah, it's impure for sure. It was. You had backroom deals, conspiracies. If you vote for me, I'll vote for you. And then now we're not in the integrity of the game anymore. This stays with the integrity of the game because the things being measured are the wins and losses you've had, the type of schedule that your coach or your athletic director put together, the teams then that you beat, all this factors in the strength of schedule part of it. And again, the iron out issue this year was head to head. So if there was a head to head advantage and the math was tight, that team that had the head to head advantage was able to swap places with that team in front of you if you were seed next door neighbors. So if you were the 2 and the 3 or the 8 and the 9 or the 10 and the 11 next door neighbors. So that was an improvement. And as Mark Miller said on the statewide show earlier, we've talked about this a lot. You've probably heard this before. in a single elimination tournament. Every now and then there are upsets, but generally speaking, you've got to beat good teams to go to where you want to go. A little bit unlike baseball or softball, where the field dimensions are irregular. This is 84 feet of basketball floor. Until you get, of course, in this case, to the Kohl Center. But the basketball court dimensions are the same. If anybody watched the movie Hoosiers, the rim is exactly 10 feet from the floor, no matter where you're playing. And so the cream usually does rise to the top, no matter what your seed is.
Yeah, absolutely. In these coaches' meetings, you would have pretty good teams that would have been a 4 and a 5 that were lobbying for the 6 so that they would go on the other side of the bracket. So you not have to see the 1 seed until later on in the tournament. Like
backroom deals.
Yeah, everybody had a golden scenario that they wanted, and that's not what this is about.
Okay, let's go through number 1 seeds before we get into coaches. In Division 1, Wisconsin Lutheran, the number one, joined by De Pere, Kettle Moraine, and again, Coach Richert coming up later as a 1 seed, Kettle Moraine Lasers. Kaukauna is a number 1. We'll have Coach Schalow coming up on the show later. So there we've got 4 number 1s, Dan, in Division 1 in the state, and we've got half of the coaches on this show.
Love it.
I think that's pretty good. In Division 2, Racine Park, Mount Horeb, Slinger, Waterford, Notre Dame, Brookfield Central. Whoa, back up. Yeah, I had that right. Let's start it over, though. Racine Park, Mount Horeb, Slinger, Waterford, Notre Dame, Brookfield Central, Wausau East, and Onalaska are all number 1s. Racine Park, the number one in Division 2.
We're very excited about that. Really excited about their team this year.
Yeah, we got to see them over at the Fiserv. You had a fun broadcast. They beat Milwaukee Juneau that day. In Division 3, Milwaukee Academy of Science, Freedom, Lake Mills, Laconia, both the boys and girls number 1s out of Laconia, Dominican, Elk Mound, Prescott, and Platteville. Those are your Division 3 number 1s. Of course, Milwaukee Academy of Science is number one in Division 3.
That video, they look prime today.
They were ready. I mean, Coach Agape Keys has got a good team, and they know it. And then it's a matter of coaches and players harnessing that, right? If you know you've got a good team, that's good. Sometimes you can get ahead of yourself on that, but it looks like they're well-grounded from Coach Keys, and it's just a matter of harnessing that good energy and keeping it good. In Division 4, we got to see the Roncalli Jets on Wednesday last week. They are the number one, followed by Bonduelle. That's who Roncalli beat. And in the math, likely, if you're thinking of things in a car race, which this is not, but that's one way to look at it, in that car race then, Roncalli on Wednesday went ahead on that final lap and has the number one. But Roncalli, Bonduelle in different sections, so it really doesn't quite matter. Aquinas, Mineral Point, Partyville, Auburndale, Clear Lake, and Cambridge, your number 1s in Division 4. And in Division 5, Potosi, Sheboygan Lutheran, Turtle Lake, Cochrane Fountain City, Southwestern, Mellon, Allman Bancroft, Cambria, Friesland. And again, going back to the analogy of a car race, I know we had some sort of NASCAR race last week. I still haven't been told who won
I don't know
the Daytona 500, and I guess maybe we don't care. A few weeks ago, Pacelli was in that was the lead dog, and Allman Bancroft in this kind of abstract way of thinking. It kind of took over a couple laps ago before the white flag dropped, and Pacelli had a couple losses in there. And again, we'll talk to Coach John Schurk of Pacelli and ask about these last couple weeks. But those were some of the late movers.
Yeah, Jeremy in chat says, be cool to see the whole state seated like the NCAA. I agree. That would be fantastic. But you're right. Some of the travel, especially for some of the smaller schools, really, really tough. If you think about teams in the northwest part of the state, Superior, New Richmond, all those teams that are all right on the border, and the little small schools in Division 5 and Division 4 way up there. Imagine them playing teams down by Madison or Beloit. Even it would be really tough. It would be tough.
Good thought, though. Thanks, Jeremy, for watching the show. Tanner and Braden. We were with Braden on Wednesday. He says he's been waiting all week for the show. So good. At least since we dropped him off at his house on Wednesday. He was our producer over in Bonduelle.
Yeah, he did a great job that night.
Some other late movers, all out of the same bracket, or essentially same side anyway. In Division 2, La Crosse Central started the week on the 1 line. got beat by Onalaska, and Onalaska races ahead at the finish line, and they are the one. Mosinee Onalaska, I think, started as the 4 to begin the week. Now that I think about this, they are the 1. La Crosse Central, the 2. West Salem stayed at the 3 line all week, and it was Mosinee losing to Rhinelander on Friday night. They fall from 2 to 4. Again, if you're looking at it just in a 2-day window. Again, as a reminder, this is a whole book of work, the whole season up through last night. So, you can say, if we wouldn't have lost that final game. Well, you could have lost any number of games or a singular game here or there, and it would have had the same impact. Yes. We really started paying attention over the last couple of weeks. So some late movers in Division 2.
Yeah, it's like the NCAA tournament where the selection committee is looking at everybody's numbers, and then us as fans, we really pay attention to the conference tournaments. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, we just won 2 games in the conference tournament. Like, we have to be in the tournament. It's like, yeah, those 2 games count the exact same as the other 31 of them.
The first 2 you played, the 22nd and 23rd game you played, they really do all count the same. Yeah. Let's see. Preston, he likes, he's with us on the NASCAR. If anybody knows who won, let us know. We won't be able to talk about it for the rest of the show, but I'm just curious who won the Daytona 500. I probably haven't heard of him. Let's see. Ryan, computerized, be nice if they could wait. So all games are counted. And again, the Coaches Association, this is when they want the seeds to come out. You've got a week of preparation prior to the tournament starting. The other way to look at it is if we finished all games, here it is Sunday. Now we've got to make travel plans for Tuesday if we're on the road. It's an interesting question, but this is where the Coaches Association has landed on the topic. Sports Wisconsin, Kaukauna, and Hortonville in the regional final. If it went chalk, so it's not out of the question.
Nina Hortonville's a good game, though.
Hortonville's been playing better as of late, haven't they?
Yeah.
And Coach Lee Robis, we talked about Coach last week, or sometime in the recent past, and always puts together a really good playoff team. Matt likes Wauwatosa West. Okay. Brook Central, the 1 seed, though, but we'll see what happens there. Philip wants to know the sleepers in D3. If we have time towards the end of the show, we can go through that information with you. I don't know. Maybe the Amherst Falcons want to make some noise in Division 3. Got Katie behind the 1s and 2s cheering for the Falcons.
They are almost hibernating. That's how much of a surprise that would be. Nothing against Amherst this year. It's been a tough season.
Falcons don't migrate, right? But those kind might have. I don't know. Let's see. And, there we go. So that's everybody. Thanks for watching, everybody. Byron Driver won the Daytona 500. So that's just a made-up name. A driver was the driver, and he was the driving winner. I don't believe that, Tanner. You made that up.
Maybe it's William Byron, the driver of the 24 card.
Yeah, I don't know. And Aiden says there is a Merriwood Conference tournament in Division 4, and there is. We'll talk about that. Is. And we've got both Stratford and Marathon.
Coach Jacobson actually told me that the other night.
Coming up, and that's kind of the deal, though, right?
Yeah.
So there we go. That's where we know so far. We've got Coach Schmidt coming up in just a minute, and we'll get into that Merriwood Conference talk in Division 4.
I would love conference tournaments.
Well, this is somewhat of a de facto conference tournament, though. Aiden's right. Yeah, we got Auburndale, Marathon, Stratford, Phillips, all in the Shawamigan, all in the same group.
Is Edgar in that group?
Edgar. Yeah, all in that same group. So who's left out? Assumption?
Well, those are all the D4 teams.
Yeah, especially out of the South anyway.
Yeah.
The Merriwood South. There's some Merriwood North teams that scatter about. But, they've provided some good ones over the years, though, in that D4 grouping.
It has been a long time since a Merriwood team has not won that half of the sectional.
Yeah, and Auburndale being the 1 seed, Stratford the 2. And I believe we're going to have our first coach coming on here in just a few seconds. Katie's getting that all lined up for us. And she says we're ready to go, so I believe it. And let's talk to Stratford Tigers head coach Curt Schmidt. Coach, first off, congratulations on a great season so far. Tell us about your tournament seed coming up in 2 weeks.
We ended up getting a 2 seed, so I think that was the right spot. Auburndale beat us the one time we faced each other, so they have the 1. So, I can't complain about how it is.
Yeah, well, and nobody would listen anyway, Coach, especially not me. You know that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was 0 for 9 last week in this question, so I'm going to hit Coach, right away with this one. Will we see you next week, Tuesday, in the gym at Edgar as you face the winner of number 7 Edgar and number 10 Abbotsford?
I don't know. It's a possibility.
We'll take it as a yes. We were starving for that last week. We couldn't find a single coach last week that was going to go scout their opponent in person. You've seen Edgar during the year. Maybe you know a little bit about Abbotsford, but let us in behind the curtain on how you go about scouting for that first round opponent.
Well, obviously there's familiarity, and obviously we have we have access to the film and all that stuff. So we'll try not to venture off into anything we do, and try to stay true to what we do, and just fine tune things. And bottom line, the ball's got to defend, and the ball's got to go in the hole for you. And that's kind of where the focus would be.
We heard you talk on the statewide show earlier today. You've prided yourself and your teams on defense. So tell us how your team sets up in a tournament style format.
We've had to tweak a few things because we lost one of our better players for the rest of the year. So we've had to tweak a few things, and I think it's coming along pretty decent. We had a really good second half against Newman. They got a couple good players that can really score the basketball, and I thought we were much better. The second half, we only allowed, I think, 11 points second half, and that's what I saw. What I saw that night is what I'm looking for and what we normally have been doing, and so hopefully that'll continue in the playoffs. That you can continue to play hard defensively and be able to defend and rebound and all that stuff.
Talking to Stratford's Curt Schmidt, you're 20-2 on the season. Those 2 losses came in conference. What is it about the Merriwood South that makes it such a combative and competitive situation every single year?
Well, I think people prepare well, and there's skill. There's some longer tenured coaches, and there's a lot of experience. And, I think there's a lot of familiarity because of that. It's a very competitive conference, very difficult to get wins each and every night from anybody. It doesn't matter what standing you're in. Every one of them is a tough game. So, we've been fortunate that we've had a pretty good year, and hopefully we can keep it going.
You've got Auburndale coming up next week, coming up tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Yeah. And, that game being left out of the seed math maybe is an advantage for you, as the bracket lines up. Perhaps Hurley would be at your place in a regional final. Just tell us about the way that the schedule lays out for you, and able to bring whatever you want tomorrow night against Auburndale, knowing that the seeds have already come out and you can just kind of let loose tomorrow night.
Well, we were planning on that anyway. It should be a good high school basketball game, and we want our kids to play loose, and we want them to play hard, and don't fear anything, don't play scared, don't play nervous, just play good fundamental basketball, and that's really what we're focusing on. It should be a good crowd, good environment, and this is why kids play for these situations. They work at it, and they put time into it because they love playing in front of people that are excited to watch a great basketball game.
Well, it should be a packed house tomorrow night. That game live on Zaleski Sports if you're out of the area and want to check in on it. Win tomorrow, Coach, you would likely split the conference or at least have a real shot at it. So how do you talk to your kids about that season goal? I'm sure that it is, and help them with maybe just a little extra edge tomorrow night.
Actually, I really don't talk about like end results as much as because I don't want them to be tight. I don't want to put a heavy emphasis on, an outcome oriented situation like this is. If you just show up to the game, do your preparations, play hard, play with zero fear, play as hard as you can, and the score takes care of itself. And that's what we're hoping for. And we take everything one game at a time and one opponent at a time. And then hopefully things work out the way you want to in the end.
Last one for me, Coach. Drew Bruzewitz does just about anything you ask him. What's it been like coaching Drew for these last number of years?
He's been fantastic. He's been a great leader, great kid to coach, great attitude, super good guy. He's been unselfish. He's all about winning, not about individual accolades. And he's just been absolutely tremendous for us when we need somebody to take care of the ball, close the game out, and just make good decisions against pressure.
Coach, I got our Marathon Red Raiders beat guy next to me, Dan Ross. I know he's got a couple questions for you.
Hey, Coach. Yeah,
Hi there.
the Marathon beat guide, I get assigned to it. Yeah. Were you a little bit surprised to see Hurley get the 3 over Marathon? Obviously, you had 2 really, really tight games with Marathon during the season. Are you happy or disappointed to not see Marathon in that 3rd round, I guess it would be?
Honestly, you guys won't believe this, but I really don't. I don't get excited about anybody particular. Oh, I'm glad we're playing this team. I'm glad we're not facing this team. I really don't. You got to remember a few years back, about 3 years ago, Marathon beat us twice, and we ended up with a higher seed. So to answer your question, am I surprised? I'm not surprised how it ended up. We all know that Marathon is an extremely good basketball team that's young. We know that. It's computer seeding it's going to go off of probably records more, and regardless of the fact that Marathon played some pretty tough teams in non-conference, and but no, I'm not surprised by that. And I don't get. Bottom line, you got to beat people to get to places, and you're going to end up seeing good teams the higher up you go. So I'm just worried about getting ready for the first game then. Yeah. After our regular season's done.
Yeah, and I'll say that the Marathon fans have not forgotten having to go to Stratford after winning the first 2.
Yep, but if you remember, we had an extremely hard non-conference.
Yes.
We beat Bangor, that went to state. We beat Mosinee. That was really good too. So we beat some really good and we beat, I think, Wausau East that year. So we ended up, I don't know how it all goes. You guys, I know Jason, he has nothing else to do other than to research the stuff carefully. Right, Jason?
It's something like that.
But you've kind of done that research where it's supposed to be, they're supposed to take an account of the competition too. And so that's kind of why a couple of years ago, I think that was a pretty big factor. We beat some really good teams non-conference. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously because you did have a better score, right? But for the common fans, it doesn't look right, and that's why the formula gets changed every couple of years, right? Trying to figure it out. I have 2 more questions for you. First, a really quick question: will we see the Tiger?
Oh, it's a great question.
Tomorrow night, in what is a possible conference championship game?
Will we see the Tiger? Yeah. I have no idea. Once again, I live in a cocoon. I don't have a clue.
Make it happen, Coach. Make it happen.
Yeah. And my last question for you, Coach. The Stratford gym is kind of a unique gym in the area, right? You have all the fans on one side. You have that orange stripe that kind of aligns with the rim. Tell me about the home court advantage that Stratford has and how that's helped you guys over the last couple of years.
Well, I'm not sure it has. I mean, I don't know. We do have a set of bleachers we put on the stage side too, and so we do end up having it on both sides. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like everybody still shoots pretty good here, so we got to play pretty good defense all the time. So.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, well, there you go. Coach Curt Schmidt of the Stratford Tigers. Again, his team takes the playoff floor on Friday, March 7th. They'll play the winner of Edgar and Abbotsford, but first things first, 2 games next week, Monday against Auburndale and then Assumption. Coach, good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, there was Coach Curt Schmidt. He asked or made reference to some of the schedules, and so we'll talk about this. The one thing I regretted last week is we didn't get I didn't feel deep enough into some of the numbers last week, strength of schedule and things that go into that seed formula. So as I compare them, Stratford and Marathon together, Stratford a 909 win percent,
much better win percent.
Marathon 682. So that's an advantage for Stratford. The Stratford's their schedule, their strength of schedule, just in a simple way, games 1 through 20 or whatever it was, their opponents had a 479 win percent. Marathon's opponents had a 557 win percent. So you could say, okay, a little bit tougher schedule for Marathon in that case. Yet though Stratford, the teams they beat carried a 358 win percent, and the teams Marathon beat carried a 261. So Stratford, 2 of the 3 categories, clearly better numbers, and in that middle category where Marathon has the edge, just a small edge.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would fight for Marathon over Stratford this year, right? I'd be interested in Marathon Hurley because I know that Hurley had a lead on Marathon a lot of the season, and Hurley probably has an okay strength of schedule because you play who's in your conference, right? And some of those conference teams have gaudy records. But I have a hard time believing that Hurley and Hurley fans, maybe cover your ears, it just doesn't feel the same as Auburndale, Marathon, Stratford, Hurley, right?
Doesn't have that sizzle, right?
It doesn't, and maybe Hurley makes the trip down to potentially Stratford and really gives them a game. I'm really not sure. But that Edgar Abbotsford game, that's a really good game. Abbotsford is playing really well lately. Pushed Assumption, pushed Marathon. They have a couple of wins lately. Abbotsford going into Edgar, I think that is a pick'em game.
Well, you've got Abbotsford, somewhat of a basketball. I think there's some good basketball going on. And of course, Edgar, a football team playing basketball. So
I didn't say it.
I do because it's a playful thing between us, because you started it. The playful thing between us and Edgar, and I hope that they still consider it in that way. All right. Well, you asked, and you shall receive, Dan. So again, Marathon win percent 682, Hurley 826. Yeah. Marathon strength of schedule 557, Hurley 458, so a slight disadvantage there. And then, but where Hurley again gets them is in the teams that Marathon beat. They've got a win percent of 261, Hurley a 325. So again, much like Stratford, in 2 of the categories, better than Marathon, and in that one that Marathon gets it's a slight advantage. So. Overall, Hurley able to get the 3.
And Hurley plays a lot of Division 5 schools, but the divisions don't go into account.
It is not. There is not a division multiplier or subtractor when you play that game. It counts as just like any other game counts. Yeah, in the formula
makes a ton of sense. And I think that Friday night's game, even if it were close, that Assumption beat Marathon.
Yeah,
that didn't help things.
Did not help things. Again, if you were looking at it in a race car kind of a way, and the cars were neck and neck, the Marathon loss at the end and a Hurley win, and maybe Hurley just by a nose.
Yeah, Hurley has had a great season. I'm not trying to take anything away from Hurley, but the competition that Hurley sees on a nightly basis is not the Merriwood.
Well, coming up, I always say anyway, when we're in the same room as Adam Jacobson, he's instantly the best-looking guy in the room.
He is.
Now, fortunately for us, he's not here, but he's going to be on the phone here in just a little bit, and it's your guy.
Yeah, I talked to him quite a bit.
Yeah, well, good. Well, we're going to get to talk to him again as we bring in Marathon's head basketball coach, Adam Jacobson. Coach, congratulations on a great season so far. You were in the 4 seed. I'll open it up by telling you that I'm wearing your pants today. I got the Marathon warm-up pants on for this boys basketball show, and something I cherish, and I wear them more often than my wife likes me to. But just tell us about the season so far and the success that you want to have heading into the playoffs soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm real happy with who we've become. We just got done with practice just now, and obviously we've lost 5 games by 1 possession. And as a coach and a player, you're greedy. You want every single one. But when you look at it from a macro point of view, who we are and who we've become wouldn't change if we're 14-8 or 17-5 or 19-3. If we'd have gotten all 5, we're still who we are, and we're happy with who we are. And we said all along, become the team we want to become come March. And I truly think we have. Our defense is where it needs to be. Our rebounding is where it needs to be. Our unity, our communication. The elephant in the room is just, we got to make shots. You think of some of the games we've lost by one possession. It's pretty tough shooting percentage from the line, from 2, from 3. So we just got to become makers, right? We can't be shooters. We got to make some shots. But I really like who we are and what we can do if the ball can go in the hoop.
Well, Coach, aside from you, I've got Mr. Marathon version 2.0 sitting next to me, and he's going to take you the rest of the way.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your team this year? Obviously, a really deep run last year, ended up at the Kohl Center, but graduated a lot of kids last year who were obviously really big contributors. Coming into the season, a lot of these preseason books and people thought that Marathon would be towards the bottom. We all know better than that, but why don't you walk us through a little bit the season journey and what it's taken to grow some of these kids who didn't have a lot of playtime last year?
Yeah, so it starts with we brought Drew and True back. Those were two starters that started as sophomores last year, and then we have 4 seniors: Cody Radke, who starts for us, River Stanicky comes off the bench, and then Wilson and Blake, who are returners off the bench as well. And then Landon Snyder got some time; he's another junior. So 4 seniors, 3 juniors, and then 5 sophomores who were on the JV last year. So, you have the mindset, all right, we got to get kids up to speed and into the varsity and all that. Yeah, that's one side of it. But really underrated of that is just because you bring guys back, they're in completely different roles, right? So that's Drew, that's True, a little bit unfair to them. You expect, there's just going to be this, all right, your time, your shine, and it's very, very difficult to maybe be the 4th and 5th defensive mindset of opposing teams to now being the 1 and the 2, right? So that whole process has had to work itself out and for all the guys. So getting kids up to speed, new roles, new team. So we've taken our lumps. Love our schedule, obviously, in the Merriwood, night in and night out. And then Mosinee and East and Regis and Columbus Catholic and Colby and Neilsville and Wittenberg-Burnhamwood and Pacelli. Our non-conference schedule has really, really challenged us. And other than, East and Mosinee, we've been in every game. I think, I think we've played in 10 one-possession games. And then beyond that, games that have been, back and forth, and maybe we made a run at the end. But we've been hardened, right? We've been in the fire. We've been challenged. And you hope as a coach, that's prepared you for now. Yeah.
And you still have 1 week left. You have a really big game Thursday night, correct?
Yes, at Auburndale.
At Auburndale. Going back to the home Auburndale game, that was a double overtime thriller. Probably the best game that I've seen this whole year.
Yeah, Auburndale is just tremendous, having a great year. You have to beat them, right? They're not going to beat themselves or turn it over. I mean, they take care of the ball so well and make their free throws. But we got a score there with about 5 seconds left to get up 2. And we had a defensive breakdown, trying to take Rab away, and they made a play, had a good drop, and, we followed Weinfurter, and he stepped to the line, hit both free throws with about 0.4 of a second left, put it in overtime. And then we got down 7 or 6, I think, in overtime. Shuda hit a 3 from about half court to get it into double overtime. And kids, just both teams making plays. And, it just has Auburndale games and Marathon games have been the last, few decades, right? Just back and forth. And Auburndale made the plays at the end and they're on their way to, big week for them to secure a conference championship. So, yeah, we got to take care. We have Edgar coming to our place tomorrow night for senior night, and then at Auburndale, and our path, looks to be a Merriwood path the next,
Absolutely.
handful of games if we're fortunate to continue to advance. So, we're excited for the opportunity.
Yeah, so speaking on that, Coach, I have two more questions for you, then I'll throw it back to Jason. Are we going to see you or someone in the staff at Phillips on Tuesday night? I know you've already played Phillips. You've also played Shawamigan. You guys handled Phillips by 20-something, right? Heikkinen had a really good game for Phillips. But are you interested in scouting that? Maybe they're going to show you something that you didn't see.
Yeah, certainly we'll watch it. Just a matter of if it's in person or not. I always like to see teams in person. And fortunately, we have because we played them. But there will certainly be eyes on that game, whether it's in person or online.
Coach, I see you at a lot of games. I really do. And the last question for you, knowing that you have Auburndale Thursday, and you might see them the Saturday night afterwards. Do you show all your cards? Now, Marathon is Marathon, and Auburndale is Auburndale. So I'm not even saying that there's anything in your back pocket, but is there? I mean, there's a lot of familiarity there. Are you hesitant to maybe try something a little bit different that you might try next Saturday night?
Well, obviously, you play to win the game. You feel it out. I know, even kind of similar situation last year, right? We played Auburndale at our place, and then ended up playing them in the sectional semi. And we knew they had some options that they might think about, and the one was the boxing one with having 6-7 and 6-7 on the block. And they didn't show that in the Thursday game, but they certainly showed it in the sectional. So there's always, because you always have the mindset of a Stratford or an Auburndale of 3 times, right? Mm-hmm. So you feel it out, you learn from those opportunities, and then you see where it shakes out come March. So, we're going to go and certainly do whatever we can to win the game, feel it out, and, maybe there might be some adjustments that you still are able to put in if you're fortunate enough to play them again the next week.
Sounds good. I will see you tomorrow night, Coach.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to it.
Dan, they call this, in the UP, they call this a true fact. A true fact in the UP, but a true fact last year. Now, Adam has been in highlight packages of ours as a coach, but last year at Colby in a playoff game, Adam made the highlight package as a spectator.
He was
in that game, so that was.
Oh, that's right, I did see that. Yeah.
So
with a notepad in his hand
and a bag of popcorn too. Yeah. So it's always fun to go to the game as a spectator / scout and all those kinds of things. Coach, I don't have anything else for you. I just want to wish you best of luck going forward. It's always a pleasure watching how you coach these teams and how you really get the best out of these student athletes. So best of luck going forward.
I really appreciate it, guys, and thank you for all your coverage and what you do for high school basketball in our area. Thank you.
Got it, Coach. Anytime. So that Merriwood South it's always a meat grinder in all sports, right? Yeah. Baseball, softball, basketball, football. That's kind of dissipated a little bit, the football side of it. But, when those teams get together, and part of the reason is the longevity of the coaches in this conference.
Yeah.
That really helps to have this thing be competitive year in and year out.
Yeah, and the coaches that have the most recent, or the teams that have the most recent coaching changes are in the bottom of the conference. It's not an accident.
Surprise, right? Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah. Adam Jacobson, good-looking guy. Women want him and guys want to be him.
That's what I know.
Yeah, that's what we said at Spencer last year, and it stuck.
It stuck the whole time, didn't it? Yeah, eventually during the season last year, his wife came up and said, keep giving him compliments. I know he likes it at home. He comes home with a little extra pep in his step. So that's fun to see. So again, Auburndale is the 1 seed in that Division 4 Section 2, Stratford the 2, Hurley the 3, Marathon the 4. And I'm not saying that Colby, Phillips, Edgar, Spencer, whatever can't pull off an upset, but you would fully expect one of those teams to be in a sectional final.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those 3 teams.
I think so. A Merriwood South team in that sectional final.
And I've seen a lot of Marathon this year. Marathon had a double-digit lead over Auburndale. They beat Stratford once. The time they lost, they led by 15 with 9 minutes left or something. Marathon can play with these teams, but they got to make shots.
A coach with a really good name, I think, Duke Kopp. Bondwell Bears head coach. They sit at the other end of that bracket in the likely waiting for one of those Merriwood South teams in a sectional final, and that would be a tough climb, I think, for Auburndale, Marathon, Stratford. Maybe they would be able to put together an all-star team that could push Bondwell, but I look forward to seeing that.
An all Merriwood team might get them.
Yeah, Bondwell's really strong.
They're really strong. They did not play well on Wednesday night when we saw them, but credit to Ron Colley because they came in with a plan, and that game went exactly how Ron Colley printed it out beforehand. Yeah, they were very satisfied with the game flow. It went to Ron Colley's tempo. It suited their strengths. It did all of that. Brian Westrick in the game, his 1,000th point, so that was good for Bondwell. The big guy
on the three-pointer. I don't know how many he's made all year. Maybe 2, maybe 3, something like that. That is not his spot out there at all, but that's where he made Bondwell Bears history on Wednesday night. So again, congratulations there.
And of note, that sectional final is going to be local here this year. It's at Stevens Point. Scheduled
to be at Stevens Point Area Senior High School, just up the road from McDill Pond. That is frozen for the time being. Temperatures are climbing. That's how we know it's basketball playoff time.
It feels like it feels like boys basketball regionals outside.
I hope so.
Because that's usually the weekend where the snow melts.
I like the regionals, and I really like warmer weather.
I do too.
So it's all made for me. In Division 4, again, the other number 1 seeds, Clear Lake and Aquinas. On the other side of that Division 4, so that's Section 1, and Section 2 is the Merriwood teams. Mineral Point and Partyville in Section 3, and Ron Colley and Cambridge in Section 4. And you and I thought, and I think we said as much on the broadcast on Wednesday night, Ron Colley and Bondwell, real good chance to see each other on the floor at the Cole Center in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
I have a hard time believing that Ron Colley will not be there. They are strong.
Yeah.
Honestly, best team I've seen this year.
Yeah, good guards. I was going to say guard heavy, but what's the problem when they're good? Right?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Not the tallest team that you're going to see.
Shot it really well in a strange, loud gym.
It was one of the better times I've had of recent.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan in the chat, are you in favor of a division multiplier? I think it's one thing that's missing. I think I would be in favor of that. But that's complicating a complicated process already, is what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So what's the goal there? It keeps Division I teams playing Division I teams, right? Because you would have a subtractor then in that case if you're playing anybody else. Division 5 team, all they could do is multiply their score by playing anything outside of their division. So I guess there's some sanity in that idea, but like Dan said, we're still in a toddler stage. We're 4 years old with this system, and if you care about what social media says, and I almost always don't, a lot of people apparently are dissatisfied with what it is right now anyway. So continue to get this.
Nobody's happy with anything.
I guess not, right? I guess not. Like we said at the top, better than conspiracies and backroom deals and.
It is
sandbagging your team and getting outwitted by what should be a 10 seed, and all of a sudden they're a 7 seed because they were just a better salesman than you were in the meeting.
It happened all the time.
Yeah, I know it did.
Happened all the time.
I know it did.
The other thing I would say is those that enjoy math, you put 20 to 22 data points in. And multipliers and stuff, it really doesn't matter too much.
It probably wouldn't have a big a factor, would it? And I don't. It's not that pervasive of an issue, I don't think, anyway, with Division I teams playing Division 4 teams and things like that. That's really not an issue that I've seen.
Yeah, and Division I teams playing a really good Division 4 team, it counts the same as a Division I team, and that Division 4 team wants to play that game, right? Because they want to be pushed. So win-win for Division I teams that are playing down a couple levels against really good teams. Everybody benefits from it.
Yeah. All right. It looks like we're getting ready to move on to our next coach. It should be Mike Schalow of Kaukauna. Tanner is talking about Wisconsin Dells and Nakusa. It's a lot of good information there, Tanner. I'll have to dissect all of it later, though, if I were to field a comment on it.
To see one of them's Adam's friendship, I
You've got some experience with that, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see Adam's Friendship on the network much anymore.
Well, let's decide not to. How's that sound?
I love it. I love it.
I think we have that kind of capability here as we bring in Kaukauna's head basketball coach, Mike Schalow. Coach, congratulations on a great year. You've got a 20-3 record. You've earned the number 1 seed. Tell us about the reward of being the number 1 seed in your section.
Well, I think first of all, it's just a combination of staying healthy and a lot of hard work, and we put ourselves in a position here in February. We had a chance to win our conference, which certainly always a goal and a big deal. And so, moving into the tournament, the reward for it though, it's about an FBA team around us. So it looks like, we really have to go back and do some battles potentially with some FBA teams that we battled with all season long.
So some familiar to there, but like you said, Coach, and this was the second thing I wanted to bring up to you, so I'm glad you and I are on the same wavelength on this. You got a big game against Fond du Lac coming up on Thursday. Is this what you thought you would get out of Fond du Lac this year in your conference? And then just tell us about the season beginning goal of being conference champion this year and now a real shot at it on Thursday.
Yeah, I think first of all, Fond du Lac returning a very senior dominant team. I think people that knew Fond du Lac, knew that the league a little bit, was well aware that they could be a very dangerous team this season. I don't think anybody necessarily picked them to be probably in that top 1 or 2, certainly, or possibly. But I think that with some senior urgency and collective experience they have, and when things start falling into place and that the confidence and stuff continues to grow, I think they're a very dangerous team. They can spread the floor, they shoot it very well, they play hard-nosed defense, and so they have the recipe to be very good. And when you put that in with the experience I mentioned, I guess we can't be totally surprised with it. But it's a long conference schedule when you play 18 games, and so staying the course for that has been very impressive by them as well.
Your last time out, you had Keegan Van Couwenberg, as the kids say, he was on one.
Yep.
Against Kimberly, scored over 50 points. Just tell us about the growth and the advancement you've seen out of Keegan now into his senior year.
Well, when he came in as a freshman, he certainly had some talent that gave him an opportunity to be on the varsity floor as a freshman. But sometimes as freshmen, your bodies aren't ready to be able to handle the rigors of a varsity. But Keegan's skill set there, he grew up length. Actually, he had pretty good footwork around the basket and learning how to play around the basket. But he was going to become a guard, and so those skills continue to evolve. And he's a very confident player. He's worked hard on his game. It's continued to evolve and grow here through his 4 years, and I think right now with him, it's a matter of just wanting to finish strong, wanting to finish his high school career strong before he heads out to the next level.
You and your guys had the experience in the sectional round last year. You made it to a sectional semifinal. When playoff time comes, how much of your coach style wants to go back to that game and then blend it into this tournament run, or is this just a matter of forgetting about last year and this year is starting fresh?
Yeah, we really didn't talk at all about last year. I mean, I think that first of all, at the high school level, you got people that are graduating and have new players coming in, and certainly we have some faces that are familiar to been with us for a while, but it's a new team. It's a different group of young men, and this group wants to have their own identity and set the stage for hopefully passion back and coming up that look back and say, gosh, we really had a great high school season, or tapped it off the way we reached all our goals. So it's trying to one game at a time, and with them just being themselves and not worrying about last year, not bringing any of that into this season.
Coach, on my side, I'm able to talk about things like this, which is I've got a pretty high confidence in your guys being able to advance past either Appleton West or Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln. You talked about your Valley Conference foes, and so in that next game would be Neenah or Hortonville. Coach Robus always seems to have a playoff team that's out there, and the familiarity with Hortonville. How do you go about game planning and putting everybody's best foot forward on teams that you see on a regular basis? Yeah,
that's always the hardest part of them is the familiarity of your opponent, and in this case, with having some FEA teams, on our side of the bracket, that can be some challenges because not only do you know them well, but they know you very well, and so the hope is always to try to get some teams that maybe don't know you as well and you haven't seen during the season, and you like different styles, but this is the way it's set up, and so our mindset has to just stay the course, what we've done all season long, just one game at a time. It's the next game mentality. We'll worry about that when that time comes, because ultimately we don't know who we're going to be playing, and provided we can win on the Friday night, the first game, until after that game's even over, and it's a short turnaround. So, you can use some of the familiarity part, I guess, because of the short turnaround. The pulling out previous scouting reports and things will be a little bit easier than maybe having somebody who you have not seen or don't know as much about.
Coach, I've got Dan Ross next to me. I know he's been a Galloping Ghost fan for most of his life, and he's got a question or two for you.
Yeah, I was going to ask if the horse is allowed on the court, but I assume that the answer is no. Break the floor. Yeah, I have one question for you, and it involves other teams in your sectional, right? And you wouldn't play either team for quite some time. But were you watching the Marshfield Eau Claire North game, or Eau Claire Memorial game last night?
Yeah, I did get a chance to see part of the game. I didn't watch it from beginning to end, but I did see a chunk of the game, and had a chance to, throughout the season, just briefly get a chance to look at both teams, and had seen them at the WBY as well. So had a little bit of familiarity with both from actually seeing them in person, but a little bit on some film as well.
Yep.
I heard the play calling was so last night, Dan.
Yeah, I heard that from a lot of people, actually. Yeah, I mean, what a major advantage to have two of the top teams in your sectional play each other just for the tournament for somebody who wants to maybe scout that eventually. Pretty good.
Yeah, it gave us an opportunity certainly to see both and to see them against each other. Again, a regular season to a tournament game can be so different because the potential of, especially late in the year, how much do you want to show? How much do you want to, give to maybe potentially another matchup or your opponent? I've seen that happen to us before, where we've actually played a team in the last game of the regular season, and we turned around and played them in the first round of the tournament. And that's been a number of years ago, but that's not an easy thing to prepare for. And so, not that they're going to be playing early, provided both teams get to that point, but I think there's probably some of that maybe in the back of the mind of both as well.
Again, Coach Mike Schalow and his Galloping Ghost take on Fond du Lac on Thursday and then begin their playoff run on Friday, March 7th. Coach, thanks for joining and best of luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Brody, who are the favorites coming out of the D3 section? Everyone wants to know about this Division 3. I guess this is a good enough time as any to
which D3 sectional are we talking about?
Take a peek at it. Yeah, that's a good one there. Maybe just Division 3 as a whole. We mentioned the Amherst Falcons being maybe a dark horse in that area. Katie is also cheering for the Falcons. Dominican is a really strong team, but I don't know who can handle Milwaukee Academy of Science. I've seen the scientists play a couple times this year. They have got tools upon tools. We talked about Coach Agape Keys in our pre-show here earlier, and I haven't seen them play. I've seen them play consistently all year long at a really high level. Of course, in a single elimination tournament, things happen. That's why tournaments and brackets and people like Dan and I and Katie, we pour through these things. We sleep with them. We wake up next to them. We eat our cereal with them because they're just fascinating to look at and watch. And one of the reasons is because who's going to be the upset? And but Milwaukee Academy of Science looks to be really tough to beat. They would have to get past Dominican, perhaps in a sectional final, and that may be the toughest game that they have the whole way through.
Yeah, I also like the Scientists. I like Lake Mills in their sectional.
The Hellcats.
Yeah. I like the Mounders.
Okay.
In sectional 1.
You just like the mascots.
Well, that's part of it, but I don't trust the Northwest Wisconsin teams when they play outside of the area.
Yeah.
Wittenberg, Freedom. Wittenberg's a little bit underrated, but Freedom, Laconia, if both of them make it to the sectional final, that's a heck of a game.
It certainly is. We've seen Wittenberg Burnhamwood on the network a couple of times. If Amherst able to get past Wrightstown on Tuesday the 4th, that's where the Falcons would fly to for the third time this year against Wittenberg Burnhamwood, those Chargers over there. So I hope that helps, Brody. Thanks for the coverage. Watched Eau Claire Memorial, and John is agreeing with me on a shot clock. How about that?
Everybody who has watched a game where you have one team holding the ball, you're like, where's the shot clock? Where is it? We're at Bonduelle. Yeah. They have the shot clocks up there.
Mm-hmm. Marshfield too.
Yeah.
Yeah, many schools
flip the switch
are there. The point I talked about last night, and it's one I've talked about really for the last couple of years, is I've heard from a number of administrators or superintendents or athletic directors or what have you from the smaller schools in our state. And we're so rural, we don't have the personnel. I don't think we'd have the personnel to come in a second clock operator. My question is, and it's just a question, I don't have the answer, but I think, I look to precedent for certain answers in life. And the precedent here is Minnesota has a shot clock. They are more rural than Wisconsin is. They have less people overall than Wisconsin does. So how were they able to accomplish the shot clock with to purchase the equipment? I get that, but they did. And then to have the extra clock operator, they did it. So how? And so I think the coaches and maybe even the association owe it to themselves to converse with Minnesota and get the cheat code from our friendly neighbors to the west.
Yeah, it's only tough for 2 or 3 games, and then everybody who runs the clock knows how to do it, and the fans will love it. Yeah. I'm not pointing fingers at Adam's friendship, but we shouldn't have 2.5 minute possessions.
No, and I've brought this up before too, and so this is maybe a repeat story to some. I happen to be on a call of I'll leave some of the names out to protect the innocent, because at this point maybe it doesn't matter who they were. It was a sectional semifinal girls basketball game. The team that won eventually went to state, but the team that won had the ball at the end of regulation with the team that lost, the team that ended up losing in regulation held the ball for the final 2.5 minutes. And the team that went to state was also content just instructing their girls just to stand put and don't attempt to interfere with the ball. Everybody was good. All 10, plus the coaches, were good with just holding the ball for 2.5 minutes. And it went to overtime.
That's terrible.
It was. It went to overtime. Now, that's maybe an extreme case, but we've seen similarities to that. And what I talked about last night, John, and I'm sure you heard it, was it's about entering the modern age of basketball, and we're at risk in Wisconsin of being left behind.
Yeah, that's
what I believe. All right, that's the shot clock conversation. We'll leave that in a rear view mirror. We will stay in Division 1, and coming up next, Eau Claire Memorial's Chad Brieske. His Old Abes have had a really fascinating last 2 games. They played Friday night. I'm going to talk to Chad about this here in just a couple of seconds, but played against crosstown rival Eau Claire North on Friday, and then had to get up again yesterday for another big game, get on a bus with the plastic green seats on it, all that kind of stuff. So we'll bring him in now. It's Eau Claire Memorial Old Abe's head basketball coach, Chad Brieske, and want to start where you and I left off yesterday. You had a really emotional game on Friday night. You and the guys get on the bus and come over to Marshfield for an impactful and another high energy game. What did you learn about your team over the last 48 to 72 hours?
Yeah, like I mentioned last night, we schedule these type of situations and these type of games to put our team into stress so that we can really find out a lot about it and learn from these moments before the finality of the tournament. And so yesterday, we kind of talked as a team afterwards about our approach, both mentally, being able to let go of the game on Friday, and how we emotionally didn't get ourselves back up, we felt, to a really high competitive level to start that game last night. And we've talked in the past, I'm a big believer that you don't necessarily win a game in the first 5 to 6 minutes, but I think you can lose a game in the first 5 to 6 minutes. And last night, because we lacked that competitive edge, Marshfield, kudos to Coach Fischer and those guys are a talented group, and they came out and had a great game plan and executed real well. And they established a really good pace for themselves, and we just simply weren't ready. So that's something that we'll be focusing on over the next 2 weeks as we try to do it all over again here real soon.
Well, that's exactly right. This is a coach's playoff preview show, so let's take a look at your half section. You are the 3 seed. Congratulations on that. You get to guarantee yourself home games throughout the regionals, and that's one of the goals I'm sure you and the guys had at the start of the season. And would you looky there? You get to play Eau Claire North again. This seems to happen a lot, but again, you're in that same area, so you're going to be in that same sectional. But let's just start with that. When the playoffs begin on March 7th, you got to rev up the engine against the Huskies one more time.
Yeah, that as you mentioned, that's always an emotional game. I'm sure that will be a well-attended first-round game for tournaments here in Eau Claire. People are going to have to drive real far, and it's always a rivalry game. So regardless of the year and the records, we can always throw that out. So it's a game that, it's nice in terms of our scout prep work is kind of, done a little bit in advance, and yet at the same time with a brand new coach over at North who's doing some really nice things. We don't know what he's like in the playoffs and what adjustments he might try to make. So there will be a little bit of that game on our end. And then, how we talked last night, I said the top 4 seeds in the Division I sectional, once you get to that top 4, it's really about your pod. So, we kind of take a look at that entire pod now and try to figure out, how we go about that. And that's one of the joys of this time of year for the coaching staffs.
Coaches, Old Abes are division or conference champions. So tell us about that and how the Big Rivers Conference helps you prepare come playoff time.
Yeah, it's a great conference. There's a lot of basketball history up here, and some great coaches that have went through. So we feel, and I'm sure I know Coach Schalow was on before me, and Coach Fischer will probably echo this for the Valley. This Division I sectional is just loaded with great teams, and that's why sometimes I don't think the seeds necessarily matter. It's again how you're bracketed, because you have 3 outstanding conferences, and then you throw Superior coming in out of that Lake Superior conference up there with just great teams and great coaches. So I think we're all really well prepared, and that's why in this bracket, and we've certainly been on the right end a couple times and on the wrong end a couple times, you see some so-called upsets, and I don't really know if they're so-called upsets just because the quality of coaching in this D1 sectional is so high and the quality of players is so high.
If things go well, you get past Eau Claire North. You have the tight turnaround then into Saturday, and you'll play the winner of DC Everest and Wausau West. You've had an up-close look at DC Everest this year. So give us kind of a look into how you and your coaching staff prepare for a playoff run, knowing that if we win, we've got to get ready for the next one, and it's less than 24 hours from now. How do you and the coaches go about that?
Yeah, I've got a great assistant coaching staff. That's one of the big pluses that I've been blessed with here is a lot of really knowledgeable basketball minds from Coach Kaufman and Coach Jesperson to my JV coaches with Coach Gully-Strud and such, and we kind of dive in and divvy it up. We each put 2 coaches on each team in our pod, and they each prepare a scout for that, so we have that all put together and ready to go, and then we come together as a staff. the week before and certainly focus on that first game. And if we're lucky enough to advance after that first game, we've already got kind of the scouts put together for the other two and wait for the results. And then we go back through and kind of fine tune what we really have to focus on, because it's such a quick turnaround from that Friday to Saturday. You don't get a lot of court time, so it's up to the kids to kind of put in some time film wise and to have themselves mentally ready. And we'll do a quick walkthrough of whatever team that we might have to face and go from there.
And then, of course, if things go according to your plan and they go according to Coach Chris Fischer's plan, the two of you will meet yet again in what would be a sectional semifinal at that point. Before I turn it over to Dan Ross to round out our talk with you today, Coach, I have to talk about Cooper Jesperson and the career he's had, the impact he's had on your program, and now being the all-time leading scorer and really the all-time just leading human being, I think that's come through your program in recent history. What has he done for your program, and what impact he'll have now for years and years to come?
Yeah, it's really tough to put this into words, and you'd think that at this point I'd have some type of answer, because everyone kind of asks about it. It's just, he's been a really special player for a really long time. And when I took over the program 8 years ago, seeing him in camp as fifth graders in some of the first camps I ran, you just kind of knew he had some really special basketball talent, but he's a special person too, who has a way to connect and just connect with teammates and connect with the kids around. I know my own son's a seventh grader and thinks the world of him. And the thing that I think is really impressive about Cooper is he kind of has learned from those people that came before him. I think I mentioned this after a game against North, that like Mackay Shaw and LJ Wells, Tyler McBride, and Will Bozer were kind of the core group that kind of broke through for the first time. We won that BRC title and made it all the way to the sectional final versus Neenah. And they embraced Cooper, and they saw their role as like carrying this torch and setting the stage for him, and put their arms around him. And then when they left, Cooper kind of took up that mantle, and he sees himself in that same way. And I know today we had the team over for breakfast, and my two sons were hanging out, and it meant the world that Cooper Jesperson was in their house eating bacon and eggs with them. So I think he's going to have a long-lasting impact on this program, and we just want to extend those weeks as long as we can right now.
Talking to Eau Claire Memorial Old Abe's head basketball coach Chad Brieske. As I turn it over to Dan, people tell me Cooper's even a better baseball player, but for now it's basketball season. Go ahead, Dan.
It is. Yeah. Congratulations on the 3 seed, Coach. I think it's very well deserved. I know, and I'm sure you talked to Jason about last night kind of being a 2-3 game. It looks like, from what I see, that I think your path might be just a little bit easier being the 3 than the 2, and that's because Spash Panthers are playing really well as that 7 seed right now. Wausau West is a little bit hurt, and DC Everest kind of the same.
Yeah, I think, DC Everest, they got the Preview kid back, and so they're going to be a challenge. And again, I think it's really dangerous in the D1 to kind of say, oh, this path is easy or this path isn't easy. Again, we've kind of embraced 2 years ago. We were the 1 seed here, and we faced an Oshkosh West team that was supposedly kind of banged up coming in, but they had a kid that ends up starting for Oshkosh in his first year. And then the next year we're the 3 seed, and we faced Joey LaChapelle and Appleton East. So the Division I sectional is just loaded. Very rarely do you see low teams that have, Division III true freshman starters that are going into the WEAC and making an impact. And sometimes you can even see higher level guys. So I think the numbers next to the left side only means something for a little bit, and it's great debate on social media for casual fans. But I don't think any coach in our sectional really thinks that any one path is any easier necessarily than the other. They just know the challenge that awaits them, and I think you have to kind of embrace that as part of being in this D1 sectional.
Yeah, and speaking of the sectional as a whole, it's the whole northern half of the state of Wisconsin for the most part, right? So you will be matched up against teams that might be 100, 200 miles away from you guys, and scouting those teams is difficult, right? How much does Zaleski Sports help you with that? And I'm not trying to say this in a way about our company here, but there's a lot of film on DC Everest, on Wausau West, on Marshfield, right, on YouTube.
Oh, I mean, the live stream is huge, and you guys are a major part of that. For sure. I think Coach Schalow mentioned before how, throughout the course of the year, if you have kind of a night where you're not playing, or maybe there's a window where we're playing a doubleheader and we're playing an early game or a late game and they're playing an early game, you're able to tune in and watch these teams across the state. So whether you have an actual hard copy film through your Huddle account, or you've just been able to kind of pop in and catch their games when the time allows, I think that's what also makes it. You see so many more so-called upsets, is because teams are just so much more familiar with one another. And I think, again, when you're in this position, you're trying to prepare for everybody. So we've watched a ton of Fox Valley games. We've watched a ton of Wisconsin Valley games. I'm a frequent subscriber to Zaleski Sports for a reason, because that's one of the key places I go to watch whenever I get some downtime, and see how Neenah versus Hortonville went that night. So it's huge.
Coach, back to Jason here. We are excited for our partnership with you, and very much looking forward to things. I guess what we'll end with this. Just tell us what you and the guys have going on this week before playoffs kick off next week.
Yeah, there's no rest for the wicked. Again, we've always tried to pride ourselves in schedule tough. So we have a really good game on Tuesday versus La Crosse Central, well coached. Todd Fergutt, obviously, with a lot of experience. And then Thursday against the Menominee team that's playing better. And then Friday, we actually get to play down at the Sonotag at 3 p.m. versus Totino Grace, one of the top teams in Minnesota. So, it's a challenging schedule to go in right before playoffs, but it's that time of year where you want to continue to push yourself and continue to test yourself and stay in game mode. So we're excited at that opportunity, and we're looking forward to a week. And after last night, we're really looking forward to, again, a back-to-back where we can kind of test out and see, are we able to get off of one game and into the next and be as locked in from game to game as we can. So we're looking forward to this week. It should be a fun week for Eau Claire Memorial basketball.
Coach, thanks so much for sharing some of your Sunday with us, and we'll see you down the road real soon.
Yeah, we really appreciate all the coverage, guys. You do such a great job of promoting the sport in the state. So thank you for all your work.
You got it, Coach. That Totino Grace game that he was talking about, that's a makeup game. That was a border battle from, it's actually been on the schedule now 3 times. It got delayed by a week due to snow, and then delayed the next week with some more snow, and then maybe they'll get to play it on Saturday. Maybe not.
Probably.
Maybe not. It is a really good team, Minnesota team, Totino Grace.
Yeah, and Eau Claire Memorial is a really good team also. And I know we kind of talked off the air that last night might have been an aberration, right, with everything that is happening.
Yeah.
But Marshfield, also a really good team, right? And I think we're going to talk to the Marshfield coach here in a little bit. I did want to answer Lacey.
Yeah, go ahead, Lacey.
In the chat.
Yeah, talk to Lacey.
And then I will have you answer the John question that's
right
on the bottom here.
Okay.
Bonduel's Path to State, a Bonduel fan, set up to do well, I think. The other half of that sectional is going to be probably an Auburndale or Stratford team that is going to be battle-tested. But Bonduel's really good this year. A lot better than what we saw Wednesday night, which was the first time that I've seen them. But I have seen clips, and I can read, so I can see a lot of the teams that the Bears are pounding throughout the year. We can't take anybody for granted. I know that Iola is also in that half of the sectional, and Bonduel needed a half-court shot to beat them over in Iola. So nothing is easy. Hopefully Bonduel bounces back after Wednesday night's game and takes care of business. So
you're saying that Bonduel, for the second straight year in a sectional final against a Marywood South team, looks reasonable to say that? Yep, at a Valley Gym. How about that, huh? History repeats itself. I've heard that before, and here's some history repeating itself. It's Marshfield Tigers head basketball coach Chris Fischer. Coach, congratulations on another great season, 4 straight Wisconsin Valley Conference championships, and now the number 2 seed come playoff time. Just tell us about your review of the season so far.
Well, it's been a pretty satisfying one so far. When we first started as a group of a coaching staff of the 5 of us together, we kind of just wanted to get one conference championship underneath our belt, and now it's become a situation where we keep chasing the next one. And to be able to continue to do that It's very, very rewarding because there hasn't been a whole lot of them in the history of our program. And, we always feel like if we can at least compete for that conference championship, it's going to put us in a good spot come playoff time in terms of a favorable seed for us. So we're happy with the way things are going right now, but we know there's a long way to go.
Along with those 4 straight conference championships, it's been 4 straight years of computerized seating. You sitting in the room with 17 other basketball coaches are a thing of the past to decide your playoff future. So just you give us a recap on how you think this now permanent style has been going the last 4 years.
I think it's definitely the way to go as opposed to the coaches vote. The computerized seating, it's very imperfect, as we know. I think there's some things that could be adjusted to make it maybe more concrete and beneficial. I remember those coaches meetings because a lot of them were hosted by Marshfield because that was the central location. And I remember sitting in those meetings and just shaking my head at how some schools would perceive successful teams, and a lot of times coaches would fixate on one game out of a body of 20 games, and you'd get dinged 2 to 3 seeds on that. And then they had the challenge system where people would or would not challenge based on matchups. But computerized seating is definitely the way to go. I think there's a couple things that could be tweaked to make it even better, but definitely in favor of the computer seating.
Well, you and I think alike on a few things, and coaches recently turned me on to nerd clusters too. So I may have a new habit.
It's not only the best, but the most underrated candy on the market today, without a doubt.
Hadn't heard of it until 3:00 yesterday afternoon.
I have not heard
Dan.
of it, but maybe I stop at
there's
the store.
multiple flavors too. The pink bag is probably the best. They'll have seasonal nerd clusters as well. They had a seasonal Valentine's nerd clusters. They had a seasonal Christmas nerd clusters. So the Marshfield coaching staff, huge fans of nerds clusters.
We're going to have to get in touch with the manufacturer and see about a sponsorship soon.
Yep.
You or me, or both, one or the other. Let's talk about your half of the sectional. Eau Claire Memorial, the 3 seed. You just got a very up-close look at the Old Abes last night. Of course, DC Everson and Wausau West paired with them in their pod. Stevens Point and is on in your half of it. Just how do you view your half sectional as it sits here right now?
Well, there's certainly a different mix of 6 to 8 teams. The one that you mentioned, they all have a different style of play, so they all pose different challenges, both collectively and then individually. They've all got really talented players, and a lot of them have collegiate level players. The 2 teams that you didn't mention right off the bat, we're going to have to play the winner of 2 teams that gave us serious issues. Appleton East knocking us off game 1. Way they defend really well, hard-nosed. And then, Chippewa Falls just, a week or so ago at their place, it was a 2-point game with less than 2 minutes to go. So right off the bat, we know if we don't play well, we could certainly get knocked off. But it's all going to come down to our preparation. It was a busy day for us today. We got together this morning and ate some Scotty's pizza. Scotty Berg's one of the greatest supporters of community sports around here, so we're very appreciative of what he did for our program today. Not being open, but still making some pizza for us. So we've got a big game against Neenah coming up on Tuesday, so we're kind of focused on that. But once we turn the page here to the next week, we'll start preparing for what's ahead.
Coach, you mentioned the Appleton East game. I wasn't going to, but since you did, I do want to talk about it a little bit. Obviously, sure. A season low, 37 points. First game of the year. Was that just a matter of maybe certain media outlets had you in a preseason ranking in a certain spot, and guys all lathered up and wanted to jump right out of the gate and maybe forgot about some of the basketball ways that you had taught them. How do you explain the start of your year?
Yeah, I don't know. There was probably a lot of things going on, like you said. We just didn't really play well. Maybe I didn't, looking at preparation, maybe I just assumed that our guys were going to be ready because we did have a lot of experience and guys coming back from a sectional final team. And maybe there was a little bit of wanting to skip some steps. I know we had talked about that right at the beginning of the year. We wanted to immediately start our season, late in the season because we wanted to get back to where we were. So there was probably a little bit of that. And then it was just Appleton East really guarded us well. We did not play good offensive basketball. They hit some shots down the stretch to get us the lead, and we couldn't shoot it well. And I don't think there's anything more than that. It was a poor performance on our part, but Appleton East had a lot to do with it.
Talking to Marshfield Tigers basketball coach Chris Fischer. By my count, I think I've got 8 seniors on this year's team. Tell us about your senior group and how they've been able to help steer the ship as the season has went on.
Yeah, it's a really enjoyable group to be around. It's a program elevator type of group. It's the group that you want that came through your youth program, that came through your middle school program. Each of them developed along the way. They did it together. They did it with each other. You don't win conference. Everybody knows about Brooks and Landon and Ethan and Joey, the guys that get the majority of the minutes. But you don't win a conference championship without the other guys like Afton, Jack, Magnus, and JJ. Those 4 guys that are usually the first guys to show up. Sometimes they're at the gym before I am. They work hard in their studies. They're student athletes. They give us great energy. Brooks and Landon don't get as good as they are right now without being able to compete against quality teammates in practice every day. They're very valuable to our program, and they understand that their value is more than what shows up on a stat sheet. Incredibly lucky to have all 8 of them stick with us.
We had talked about this, Coach, in our preseason interview that we did, but a lot of those names you mentioned, I saw them all summer at the YMCA and into the fall while they were playing their fall sport. They would still have enough time to go and get some shots up and even more than that, but at a minimum, be able to do that.
Yeah.
I've got Dan Ross next to me. I know he is, through me, he has been encouraged to watch your basketball team play this year, and he's got a couple questions for you.
Yeah,
Sure.
Jason bleeds literally orange and black stripes. It's pretty crazy.
Even when he rips on us for not scoring any points.
Well, that's one of the questions I had for you.
I'm the modern day Abe Lincoln. I cannot tell a lie.
Yeah, so an offensive explosion last night compared to a lot of the games this year. For you and your coaching staff, going into the tournament, is there a number that offensively that you try to hit, or a number that you try to hold the other teams against?
No, we never verbally express to our guys we've got to score X amount of points or keep a team under an X amount of points. I think every game of preparation is different. Sometimes it's just plain old really tough to put the ball in the basket. Like, it's just, for whatever reason, the shot's not going in. It's not necessarily because of the quality of the shot. It's just you're a little bit off that night. So we never verbalize a point total in either direction. We kind of look at, if we're preparing to guard a team, we kind of just look at films or games when they're at their best and maybe films when they're at their worst and try to pick pieces of both of those things. And we kind of do the same with us when we watch us on film. It's like, what's making us shoot poorly and what's making us score a lot of points. So we kind of look at both gauges, both extremes, and plan our preparation based on that.
And my last question for you, Coach. I got to take in your game at Wausau West the other night. I really thought it was it's the first time I've seen Marshfield in person. I was really impressed. 3 weeks from now, if you guys are still playing on the way to Madison, what really went well for your Tigers team?
That's a really good question. It probably comes down to, obviously, a lot of it has to do with our opponent. Obviously, shot making is going to be a big key down the stretch. We like to think that we're pretty solid defensively. We haven't had too many poor defensive showings all year. But if we're still playing this deep, or as deep as you mentioned, the free throw line always comes into play, close games, late games in March. The turnover battle, similar to a football game, you got to win the turnover battle. And probably rebounding. We've been a pretty good rebounding team the last 5 weeks of the season here. So those keys are probably something you look at when you get to March.
Well, thanks, Dan. Coach knows that when I talk, it's because I care. So whatever I happen to be talking about.
You definitely care about the Marshfield Tigers. I know that.
Yeah.
I sent a fun voice message to Dan last night on my way home from the game. So that's where we'll leave it at that.
He was excited.
Well, I was excited. I got to sit back on the floor. I much enjoy sitting on the floor doing the play call, and I was excited for a few other things too. So, Coach, we really appreciate the time. Is there anything we left out?
I don't think so. I know you guys always have your thoughts about the seating process and things that could change. I've got a couple thoughts as well, but it might be for a different discussion.
All right. Well, if we go according to Dan's plan, we'll have this discussion for you the day before the Cole Center here in a few weeks. So we'll leave it at that. But that's Dan's plan. I don't put words in Coach's mouth. Marshfield Tigers head coach Chris Fischer. Good luck against Neenah on Tuesday, and then into the playoffs starting next week.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Dan. Roll Tigers.
There you go. Marshfield basketball coach Chris Fischer. I'd play for him.
High tide.
High tide.
High tide.
High tide. High Tigers.
Yeah.
He did mention it too. I was going to ask, but he somewhat covered it. But yeah, Appleton East, there was a 37-point output to start the season. I happened to be sitting on the baseline of that game, wondering what in the world is going on out here.
Appleton East won that game, right?
39-37. And then didn't win many after that. Chippewa Falls hasn't won any, and we had talked about this, and of course, Coach knows it. But minute five, and it was just a couple of points.
Yeah.
And so one of those two teams are going to come rolling into the Frederick Construction Fieldhouse on Friday the 7th, and I think Coach and some of the guys might have some good reason to be a little bit nervous for that first game, knowing that they've lost to one of those teams and the other team took them right down to the finish.
It'd be a really good opportunity to go up 14-0 in the first.
Wouldn't it, though?
In the first 6 minutes.
Just to put it all out of reach right away. Just like they did last night. It was 15-0 in the blink of an eye. Coach Brieske talked about that. It wasn't you can't win the game, but you certainly can lose it. And there was a lot of looks of that on the purple and black shirts last night. Let's see. I had some things to answer here.
John,
you told me. So John,
asked about the Deer District.
The Deer District. It was a great experience for the boys, the young men that got to go to the Fiserv Forum. Word is it will continue into next year, and we plan on being there to broadcast those games again next year as well. You get to play on the bigger floor. Some of those guys in the post-game interviews talked about what the experience was like in being on the same floor as some of their NBA heroes and guys they watch, got to play on, and just being in the concourse, in the tunnel, in the locker room, you get all that. It's a really great time. Parker, what are we thinking about the powerhouse Assumption Royals? Well, I'll leave that to Coach Paltz. He'll have to answer that question for you.
Yeah, I answered it in chat.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, big win Friday night.
Okay.
Going to be the favorite. You get a home playoff game. And then we'll be talking to Coach Konieczny a little bit about his team. They're playing really well right now.
Yeah, very soon, as a matter of fact. We're halfway through our coaches, and it seems like we just began. It's been going pretty good. I hope for people at home, too. And, Edgar Marathon, you'll be there.
I'll be there.
Tomorrow night. Edgar Marathon. I'll be in Stratford tomorrow.
They have
check that
Auburndale?
out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We were originally supposed to be there together, but we want Marathon senior night.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night.
I mean, that seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Since you and Adam are such good friends, and the marathon people really enjoy when you walk in the gym.
Yeah, I'm pretty well known over at Marathon High School at this point.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I did not say that. You said that.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, we're going to move to Division II, and in our long line of coaches with a number 1 next to their name, come playoff time, here comes another one. It is Wausau East Lumberjacks head basketball coach Dan Garrett. And Coach, let's start with that. Congratulations. The book of business you and the guys have turned in this year has led to the number 1. Give us your reaction.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I guess I wasn't surprised. I felt like we deserved the 1 seed. I felt like I wasn't surprised that we saw that 1 seed. I think our body of work speaks for itself. We've challenged ourselves. We played in the Eau Claire area. We played in the Green Bay area. We played in the Fox Valley area, and we obviously played in Central Wisconsin, one of the toughest conferences I think in the state. So we've definitely tested ourselves, and I think like you said, our body of work has proven that.
Well, tell me more about that. The teams you play in the Wisconsin Valley Conference, generally Division I teams. For the time being, Merrill, who you may draw as your first playoff game, they'll be leaving the conference soon. But just tell us about that and some of the trials and tribulations you guys go through during this season, playing against those other bigger schools in your conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think playing in a bigger conference obviously prepares you for this time of year. So we're not complaining about that. And, the battles we have, in that time, definitely helps us. Playing teams like Marshfield, playing teams like Stevens Point, playing teams, like that who have, a reputation of playing really good basketball and winning over a long period of time, and challenging those teams is every night is you got to get up for those games. The team has to get up for a game every night. And I think I said at the beginning of the season that, the team at the top could lose to a team at the bottom. And we lost our Rapids. We lost our Rapids, earlier, late this year. And Rapids, at the time didn't have a conference win. So, that's how competitive our conference was this year. And I think it's battle tested us.
Tell me about your team offensively. Jesse, Jaden, Charlie, 3 of your top scorers, and able to have those types of scoring options. How do you think that sets you up on a night in and night out basis?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it helps. Having guys like Jesse Nupgetchik, who can put the ball in the basket at just about every different level. But the last 3 or 4 weeks we haven't had Jesse, so we've kind of become a different team and a team that's looking at pounding inside a little bit more to our big guys, Charlie Cayley and Robbie Anjuli, and that's given us some success over the last few weeks, and adding Jesse back into that is just going to help.
Before we get to playoff time, it's a game coming up on Thursday. You get another big school, DC Everest. What's left for you and the guys to work on Thursday before the playoffs begin?
Yeah, well, right now we're sitting at 5 and 6 in conference, and we want to finish at least 500 in the conference. So, Thursday's a big game for us. We're not overlooking that game. We're not looking. We're not going to look forward to who we're going to play, Merrill or Anago. We're going to focus on BC Everest this week, and they're different from the last time we played them. They have Cohen Preeby back, so I'm sure he's going to be ready to go and ready to hit some shots against us because he didn't get to play last time. So we're going to have to be ready to play, and I'm sure we're going to get their best shot.
Coach, I want to take a crack at one more with you, and then I've got Dan Ross with me. I know he wants to really rough you up when I'm through with you here. But, I noticed this in the game I was at last night, and, I've got the luxury, whether through my business or through other outlets in the state, to watch basketball games all over the state. And one thing I've really noticed over the last few years is just the officiating style from one part of the state, one region to another, really seems to vary quite a bit. And you might see that come playoff time where you're going to be, with officiating crews that you may not have seen. But just talk about that and, maybe your expectation as far as those types of things are concerned, and how you and the guys kind of go through the officiating changes, especially, like I said, as I've seen it, really looks pretty wildly different from corner to corner in this state.
Well, hopefully you're not setting me up too bad here with that question, right? Because I'm sure there's some officials listening, right? But I think, like you said, there's different officiating in different parts of the states, and when you go to when you go to the Fox Valley area, you may be able to bump a little bit more. In this area, you may not be able to. It just depends, right? Depends on who you get, and we tell the guys, you can't worry about the referee. Let us worry about the referee, and you guys just got to play. And if we're playing hard and we're playing the way we should play, the referees really shouldn't have a effect in the game.
Yeah, I appreciate the answer, Coach, and I don't want you to get in trouble either. But as I turn to Dan, as I turn to Mr. Ross next to me, we've talked about it on air before. We see a travel here and the same move somewhere else in the same state is not a travel. We see a dunk that's a technical here, but it's not a technical over there, and it's hard for the media to keep up with these things. So that's why I ask. Go ahead, Mr. Ross. You know Coach Garrett.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Coach. Congratulations on a really good season. A lot of really good non-conference wins. Conference has been up and down, but like you said, there's been injuries and such. Is Nap Gizik about to come back? Can you give us a little update?
Yeah. Jesse played Friday. His first game back was Friday, so he hadn't played 3 or 4 weeks. So obviously it was a little bit of an adjustment for us having him back on the floor, not having him for 6 games. We had kind of, gotten used to not playing with him. So, Jesse's a dynamic player and we have to do some things for him to make sure, he's in positions to be successful.
Coming off of the Rapids game, how did the talk with the team go after that? Or how's the mood or the morale of the team immediately afterwards? Because that's a learning moment, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were obviously disappointed, right? We didn't play our best, and it was senior night, and we didn't come home with a win on senior night. So there was a lot of different things going on that night emotionally, and like I said, we were disappointed, but I don't think we felt like it was all lost. I think we felt like, hey, we didn't play well. We didn't do the things that we needed to do to be successful. And if we do that, we will be successful. And the next game we played was against Wausau West, and we had a really good game against them, and played them tough. And Miles Casey hit a big shot for us to win the game.
Yeah, 2 more quick ones for you, Coach. One, I want to talk about your son, because he's out looking for a new school right now, right? And I want to give him a little bit of attention here, because this is someone who is now back on the market because the school's closing, and I think he's a fantastic player.
I appreciate that. An unfortunate situation, with Northland, and Jaden had built a really good bond with the coach there and some of the players there. So, obviously disappointed, but, excited for another opportunity too. There's lots of colleges out there and lots of opportunities. So, disappointed that, we're not going there to Northland, but, like I said, there's going to be many opportunities. And if we, take care of business and do the things that we should do here in the playoffs, he'll be on that stage and lots of eyes will be able to watch him.
Yeah. College coaches who are listening to this, or you're going to find this later, really good free agent on the market right now.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it, Dan.
Yeah. One last question for you, Coach. If you could pick a date, when am I going to see you at the Trap River Golf Course? This year?
You guys randomly see me on a random Tuesday in the middle of the day, but just let me know, Dan. I'm available just about any time.
All right, I love it. Good luck, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Back to me, Coach Garrett. We started a little bit on Antigo Merrill. I want to come back to that. Merrill, they play on Tuesday, coming up in 8-9 days. The popcorn is fairly good there. What are the chances if I walk in the gym, you'll be in the gym up in Merrill on Tuesday the 4th?
Not planning to be there. I'll probably watch the stream. I've been at a gym several times, so I know what it looks like, and I know the team. So, we'll watch them on TV here, and we'll get what we need. But looking forward to either team, right? Looking forward to Merrill or Antigo. Obviously familiar with Merrill. Merrill always plays us tough, and if we play them, I'm sure it's going to be a battle.
Well, if it is Merrill, I may need to find a way to get into the Wausau East gym, because 2 basketball guys like Dan Garrett and Troy Pieper getting together. I know there's always going to be something to watch on the sidelines. Coach, we appreciate your time today. Best of luck come playoff time.
Thanks, I appreciate it, and I appreciate all that you guys do for high school basketball in our area and our state, really.
You got it, Coach. More coming in that way. Yeah, Wausau East, the 1 seed, a sectional team from a year ago.
Yep.
And essentially, we've heard from other coaches, in the high school environment, kids graduate and leave and come and go. So I'm just speaking generally, but generally the same team coming back, but a year older, a year more experienced, and maybe just maybe a year better.
I really like their sectional. I like how it lines up for them. You're not going to see a team Southwest until the sectional final, right?
Yep.
We do have River Falls in here. We have Menominee. I think those are 2 teams that Wausau East will be able to handle. You have the Hodags here, which they're pretty familiar with.
Yeah, Rhinelander though believes that they have the magic sauce right now.
They had a great season,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic season.
Beat Mosinee on Friday night.
Yeah. The war in '64. We don't talk enough about that. Anago Merrill.
Well, now it's the second one this year.
Yeah, they don't like each other a whole lot.
Well, Red Robins and Blue Jays, they're fighting for nest materials all season long. Who can get the best straw and the best grass clippings and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's a bird battle over there. I meant what I said, though. Both Coach Garrett and Coach Pieper are very entertaining to me on the sidelines, on the bench. I like watching them, but they are basketball guys through and through, and that's what I care about more than anything else. Let's see. Do we have another question to answer? Somebody asked about Adam's friendship before. We do have Adam's friendship coming up on the network on Tuesday.
Why?
Pacelli Cardinals boys basketball, and
okay.
it's going to be John Schurk of Pacelli Cardinals fame in just a couple minutes. So we'll talk about that. But,
why?
Well, yeah, I know you had a less than desirable experience with the Green Devils.
It was fine.
The Devils.
Yeah, a lot of it goes back to my hatred of them in high school, because we played them in sectionals many years in a row, and the offense hasn't really evolved much since then.
So, thank you for that. Before we get Coach Schurk on the phone, let's talk a little bit about the bracket. We turn now to Division 5, and this is sectional number 2.
It's a good sectional.
Yeah, Allman Bancroft is the one. This I may have mentioned this in our pregame. But in that race car kind of analogy, which this isn't, but because we look at the numbers every week, to us it sometimes looks like that. But 3 weeks ago, Pacelli was in that lead position with about 3 laps to go. The Cardinals have lost 3 of their last 6, so they're 3-3 in their last 6. Whereas
against good teams,
against pretty good teams. Whereas Allman Bancroft has won their games, and so in that kind of last lap, the Eagles take that one. It really doesn't matter though, because Pacelli's still playing all their games at home in the regionals. Allman's still playing all their home games in the regionals. They'll play at a neutral site should they get to the sectional round. So I guess it doesn't matter a whole lot. We'll ask Coach about that when he comes on. But, I mean, am I close there? Doesn't really matter a whole lot, one or the 2?
No, not really. The big difference is the 3 and the 4, right? I don't know what the difference really is between Tigerton and a White Lake team.
Yeah,
I don't know
negligible,
I
think.
about White Lake. Yeah, I mean, Pacelli and Allman, in my mind, are the top 2 by a bit in this sectional. And I don't think Coach Schurk will argue with me about it.
Okay. Well, we'll find out, won't we?
We will, yeah.
Let's go ahead, Katie. Let's go ahead and dial them up here, and we'll get things moving along.
Coach Schurk is always a really good interview for us.
He's a good basketball guy as well.
He is, yeah.
Turtle Lake, Mellon, Sheboygan Lutheran, who a lot have already earmarked as the Division 5 champions in 2025. Cochrane, Fountain City, Potosi, Cambria, Friesland, and Southwestern, your other number ones across the Division 5 landscape. Coming up here in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, this sectional generally isn't the hardest. This is the northern going northeast sectional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, northeast is a good description.
Yeah, we have seen Newman come out of this 2 years ago.
Oh.
I think it was. They ended up winning state from the sectional. I am all for a third Allman and Pacelli game. I think everybody would love to see that.
Well, that's what it would be. The Eagles have the 2-0 advantage on the season. Speaking of birds getting together and those kind of things, as birds like us are going to get together with the head bird at Pacelli. It's Pacelli Cardinals head basketball coach John Schurk. Congratulations on a great season underway, Coach. Just talk to us about the 2 seed and having home court advantage through the regionals when playoff action begins.
Well, anytime you can get a 2 seed, you're grateful. Three home games you can't complain about for sure. So that part's going to be good. Home court advantage is always a plus. It's
it's trying to get back at it. We've kind of had some hard games coming up, and we have been playing as great as we did earlier in the season, and we need to find it here quick.
Coach, Dan and I were talking about this before we brought you on. I mean, every team has, it seems like, has this somewhat of a section of their schedule. You're 3-3 in your last 6. A 20-point win against Conference for Pittsville should have the arrow pointing back up. But I'll just ask you that: how do things look when the arrow is pointing up for your team?
Well, it's a confidence builder, obviously, and that especially with high school kids, that's huge. And confidence goes a long ways. So we can start to see the ball going in the hoop a little more. You kind of build the confidence back up. Try to find that even scoring again, like we've had a few times throughout the season, is our goal for sure.
What we want to talk to you about your playoffs. This is a playoff preview show after all, but you do have 2 games coming up this week. Port Edwards ends the season on Thursday, and tomorrow Adams Friendship Green Devils come to town. We've seen Adams Friendship on the network this year. They are very comfortable in 60, 90, even 120-second possessions.
A patient team.
How do you and the guys a tempo somewhat team I would describe the Cardinals as? How do you prepare for a team that wants to bring things almost to a screeching halt every time down the floor?
I think defensively it's a mindset. You just need to keep pressuring the ball. Try to make sure that they want to pick the pace up, or that you're causing turnovers. So when they come down the next time, they're worried about holding on to it too long. We have some pretty good guards. We had a pretty good trio that can switch in a lot of opportunities. With Melise, Cam, Braden, and Lucas. So that part is nice to be able to throw those 4 guys out there and just have them switch about everything that's taking place on top to keep that ball pressure on them. So that's kind of our goal. Is to definitely keep that ball pressure to make decisions.
And then take us through your conference and your conference schedule this year, and how things through the conference season have got you and your guys to where you are now. Again, 2 seed coming into the playoffs.
Well, conference-wise, it is what it is. We had a little frustrating moments a few times during the conference-wise, but on conference, our non-conference schedule was tough. We had a lot of good teams that we put on the schedule this year, and it was a challenge. We won some of them, and then we took some down to the wire. So it was good to see even the ones we didn't win against different tougher opponents, bigger division opponents, that we still were able to compete. Take some to overtime. Pull some out in overtime. So they showed us a sign that what we're capable of doing for sure.
And then 7 seniors by my count on the roster. How have those guys been to coach this year, and how do you feel that they have set up your program after graduation?
Well, I think it keeps high expectations. It's the 3rd year in a row that we've been pretty successful, and expectations, obviously, are going to be high every year. That when you start to go on a streak like this, but the seniors, I think really what really stands out with this group to me is when we have game day and we're on the court. They just play hard, and that's something I have told our JV guys plenty of times. You need to watch how hard they play in games. You need to watch how much they get after it. And I said that's huge, and hopefully that's developing and learning and showing some of the younger classmen what's going to take to win a lot of ball games is that intensity.
And then we take a look at playoffs here in about a week and a half. Tuesday, March 4th, you host a regional quarterfinal game against the Marion Mustangs. It's a team you haven't seen this year, so how do you go about preparing for Marion come playoff time?
Right now I'm in a spot where we definitely want to make sure that we're doing everything right. Fundamentally wise, we want to be just fundamentally sound. We want to create good habits. And that's kind of where we're going to go into this is making sure, where are we at? Are we getting back on that pace to play high level basketball? That's kind of the focus, going through the end of this season, the last 2 games to get there and start the playoffs is just good habits, high level intensity basketball, and work it out together.
And then, the season began. Who your sectional mates were going to be. Now the seeds have come out. How do you rate your prospects come playoff time?
Well, rate wise, each team has their strengths, and so it's going to be different each time. And you don't have a ton of time to prepare for a lot of these teams. So, and that's when we go back to saying, are we ready? We have to be ready ourselves. And then as the coaching staff, breaking down the film, breaking down the individual players, to make sure the players know who they're going against, the skill set, maybe the style of the game. So that's the staff wise. We do a good job at that. We get together, and really watch a lot of film and write a whiteboard up and make sure we know what's going on and make sure the boys know, what the other team, what they can expect from the other team. This year we had, like I said, we had a good non-conference schedule to see that good competition and to grind it out. And still hope for with the WIA that the strict schedule. I'm hoping. I think it could get better yet. I think that there's teams out there that the schedule, they've had some good tough games that I don't know if are really accounted for, but hopefully they can keep improving that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too far into this for this kind of talk, but there have been some incremental changes, and hopefully those do lead to some improvements. Coach, I've got Dan Ross next to me. I know he's enjoyed watching your team play. He and I happen to be on the baseline over in Auburndale, and I'm not sure Dan wants to talk about that game with you, but just wants to talk to you and get a feel for your team here this year.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, congratulations. 2 seed, nothing to sneeze at. And I think you're right about the non-conference teams that you've played. It's only going to help you going forward, right? A year ago on this show, almost to the day, I asked you if you were excited about playing Almond a third time. So I'm going to ask you it again. You didn't get to get them last year, but is that something that is circled on the whiteboard in the coach's room?
I guess anytime you can play a team 3 times, it's always tough. The challenge, obviously, the 2 schools have quite a history together. There isn't much, to be honest with you, there isn't much. Obviously, there isn't much like for the 2 schools. It's really, in some way, I think the rivalry is a little maybe unhealthy, how it gets at times for being a high school level. But anytime that you know that you're a good team and you lost 2 games that you felt you did not play well, you're right. You always like to have that opportunity to get a third chance at it and play your best ball. Because looking at some of those other teams that we've played against, the Wittenbergs, Iolas, the Columbus's, Marathons, and Auburndales, and so on, how we played compared to how we played in those 2 games against Holland Bancroft, still scratches my head on. I'm not sure where we were, but. So that part of it's kind of nice saying, hey, we know we can play better. We've shown we can play better, and let's go put a full game together.
2 more quick ones for you, Coach. A potential second-round game against Three Lakes. That's a team that ended your season last year. How excited do you think that your guys are going to be if it is, in fact, them coming in next Friday into the Cardinal Nest?
That part of it can be tough just because they were senior heavy last year, and they lost a lot of kids that we went against. They have the same jersey, a name going across their jersey. So I think to a certain extent, the kids that did play more in that game, like Cam, Zach, and some Lucas Hammerly, a few of those guys, and Braden Flaker that did play. I think it might mean a little something to them inside just because they remember being there. They remember seeing how the game left. They were on the floor. But it really is, 2 different teams from last year. Both of our roster changed a little bit, and so it's going to be a little different style of play with both teams. So, yeah, I think at least on our side, our kids will remember that for sure. But when we prepare for the game, it's a different team from last year that we're preparing for. Yeah,
and one more question, Coach. Hopefully you'll answer it. Do you talk to Jaden still?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not. Jaden and I have not had a conversation since he told me that he was making the move.
Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty, Coach. I know that you were a big part of his coaching, or a big part of his high school basketball life, and I'm sure he appreciates what you've done for him.
Yeah, I hope so. We spent a lot of time together. Obviously, a lot of development, a lot of summer, travels, and a lot of good times. We really did. I mean, there's always challenges, throughout high school sports, but we had a lot of good memories together, and I don't think that will ever get taken away.
Yeah, it's a new world now. It really is.
Cam Schurk, Zach Eady, Lucas Hammerly go for about 40 points a game as a trio. Coach, you've got a really fantastic group of basketball players again this year, and we wish you nothing but the best. Good luck come playoff time.
Good luck, Coach.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right, there was John Schurk. He's the head Cardinal over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's flying high, being the 2 seed. Of course, I think you're with me here. I hope for a rematch against Almond Bancroft.
Yeah, I would love to see it. At sectionals on a neutral site, that'd be great.
Yeah, we maybe lace them up over in Wapaka and off we go, or something nearby anyway.
That's probably a game that I'm going to, even if I have to pay to get in.
Well, the good news is you probably won't have to pay to get in, and the good news is I'm really not seeing a future where that game doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's tough to predict things.
Really
Anything
is.
can go awry. But those two, just their book of work and what they've turned out this year. I've seen some of those teams a couple of times. I'm just not sure anybody's got a thick book to match what they bring to the basketball floor.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Coach Schurk and his Pacelli Cardinals have played a lot of Division IV teams, right, leading up to the playoffs. That only helps. There's absolutely nothing wrong with playing those games, even if you lose a couple of them. If Pacelli's the 1 or the 2, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because you have to win them all, and the difference of playing a 7 seed instead of an 8 seed, 3 Lakes instead of maybe a Ross Shoulder Bowler, the same teams.
In Division 5, a team I haven't seen, whether on the internet, those newfangled computers that they have out there, or in person, but there's a lot of momentum behind them, including on the statewide show this morning at Sheboygan Lutheran. Mm-hmm. A lot of people high on them, so whether it's Almond Bancroft, Pacelli, or somebody else, what I'm being told is that would be the toughest task of anything in Division 5 to get past Sheboygan Lutheran. That game's scheduled in Pulaski for the moment.
Yeah, and
sectional final.
I think it's probably going to be Almond or Pacelli who are going to get a shot at them, and they're going to have 3 other coaches who are really big fans of them playing Sheboygan Lutheran.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the rest of the state will have a very big rooting interest in that game, is what I would say.
Not wanting to see Sheboygan Lutheran on the Kohl Center floor.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down.
And I'm glad Coach answered my question about Jaden.
Yeah, it's good candor. I know that Coach is he's a straightforward dude.
Yeah,
and I appreciate him, joining the show and answering that kind of question, because you're right. From a young age,
he's been a big part of his life.
He was in the program, and the grass was greener somewhere else, and that happens.
Yeah.
It happens. It's kind of funny. I hear a lot just on this side about they're unsubstantiated and really ridiculous. But a certain school recruits whatever, and it's the certain school is always a private school that somebody's talking about. Dan, I can't even tell you all the numbers of times that the action is leaving that private school going somewhere else. That's usually where that action happens. But that's a talk for a different day, I suppose. All right, well, we're going to move on here in this show. We're staying, in Division 5. That makes, my bracket a little bit easier to reach for, because look at that, I'm already there. I do have to turn the page, though, because we go from Section 2 to Section 3, and we're going to talk about, I guess, what's being termed the western part of Division 5. Where Cochrane Fountain City is the 1 seed. They've got a first-round bye and will play on Friday, March 7th. And the other team in a 14-team group that has a first-round bye, that found out about that this morning, are the Columbus Catholic Dons.
Before we bring Coach Konieczny on, and I know he's listening, this was razor thin, right, between Columbus Catholic, and who's the 3? Alma Center Lincoln.
One of the closest mathematical formulas that we have seen produced in 4 years of the seeding. But I'm sure as we bring Coach Joe Konieczny on, Coach, you got to be happy with the first round bye come playoff time.
I think we are a little bit surprised by it. I thought the 2 seed through the 5 seed, record-wise, was probably as close as it could be. This is probably a situation where if it's a coaches meeting and coaches voting on it, we're not the 2. We're probably closer to 5 or 6 just based on record. But the computers take into account, maybe the non-conference schedule we played, the level of competition we lost to, and obviously we're happy to get a 2.
And it's a product of what you and the boys have done this year. Coming off of a state championship, is fun. It's good. The gold ball is in the trophy case forever. Yet, what that means, and usually in Division 5 or a smaller enrollment school like you are, what that usually means is a lot of those seniors have left, and you've got to find a way to retool. And you have all the way back up to 2 seeds. So how have you been able to do it now with this group of guys?
Well, I think we went through some growing pains early. We were 5 and 6, and I think they were feeling a little bit of the state championship hangover, or maybe expectations that were pretty unrealistic. But we told them, in that locker room when we fell to 5 and 6, had a heart-to-heart and said, that those things you did last year, they can't be taken away. Nobody's going to come take the gold ball out of the trophy case or the sectional stuff out of the trophy case. It's a new group, and we have to really kind of embrace the process. And I think they've done a really good job of that the second half. We've won 10 out of our last 11. Some good wins in there against teams that had beaten us previously. So very, very proud of the way they've really maintained the level of our program.
Let's talk about a couple of those guys. One that was a factor last year, Matt Konieczny, averaging about 17 points a game. And then one that wasn't as big a factor last year, Ben Weiland. He's come on strong. He's in double digits in scoring. So tell us a little bit more about Ben. Let's learn more about Mr. Weiland and what his growth has been like this season.
Oh, it's been a huge part of our success. Like you said, I think coming in, Mac was kind of a focal point. Our first 9 or 10 games, it was, if he didn't score 20 and do a lot of things for us, we were going to have a tough time. I think the last 10, 11, 12 games, Ben has shot the ball extremely well. You can see him just growing from a confidence standpoint, defensively in really all phases of the game. And to have that second score, and really Carter Summer, too, another sophomore, has really come on in some of our games from a rebounding standpoint. To be more balanced is obviously a huge thing at our level where they can't just take away one guy. So I'm really, really proud of those guys and the way they've grown and really become huge threats for us offensively.
You got a game coming up at home, on the road tomorrow over at Gilman, a team that you just beat by about 40 points. So I'm taking it as a likely repeat win against Gilman. That puts you at least a share of the conference title. So again, you talked about the start that you had, and now here you are with a game to play and a chance to clinch yet another conference championship.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I think our boys are excited. Losing the 9 players that we lost, some of the things they've done. I think a lot of people had us picked more towards the middle of the conference coming into the season. So for them to have the opportunity to play a game tomorrow night, to get a number up on the board, which is something I know means a lot to our alumni, to be able to come back and say, hey, our 2025 is up on that board. And they have an opportunity to do that tomorrow. And again, I'm just very, very excited for them.
Coach, I don't know who picked you. I've got my Columbus Downs blue on today, though, so I don't know who you might be talking about there. Assumption and New Lisbon face off next week, Tuesday. That's a regional quarterfinal, and if it goes chalk, you'll see Assumption come playoff time. That's a team that you see on an annual basis over at the Cranberry Tournament. How does a familiarity, if chalk, how does a familiarity with that type of team how does that fit in what you and the guys want to accomplish in the playoff season?
Well, I think it helps. We play a lot of the same opponents. A lot of our non-conference games are against the Marywood South, and we play Marathon, Auburndale, Assumption. They play a few teams in our conference, but I think you look back at that first game, we were able to get a close win, but both teams are probably completely different than they were back at Thanksgiving. So they have some scary wins. Their record is probably not an indication of the level they're at. They're in a very tough conference, and anytime you can beat Marathon and Auburndale in the same season, it's definitely not somebody you can take lightly.
I'm going to turn it over to Dan Ross here. Coach mentioned Assumption. They had a buzzer beater to beat Marathon just the other day. Sometimes that really is an elevator for a team. But you've had the chance to watch Coach and his Dons play a number of times. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, a question for you, Coach. You obviously don't get to pick what part of the state you play in, right? What is the difficulty in having so many of these sectional teams far southwest?
Well, it's different. In my 20 years here, I think we've been in 3 different sectionals. A lot of that's because we're in the center of the state, so as they try to even out the numbers and put 32 in each one. But we've been in this one the last few years, and I think the last 2 especially, it's been really difficult. If you look at the other half of our sectional, you have 4 ranked teams, I think. There's 2 ranked in ours. So, Loyal has been ranked. They won 11 straight games. So it's very difficult. And if you look at last year, nothing against the teams we played at state, but we get to sectionals last year. We won 2 games by 3 points against Royal, who had us down late, and against I forget who we cashed in, who had us tied with a minute left. So, sectionals is a unique thing, and I thought that the teams at sectionals last year were all state caliber, and we were just very fortunate to have some things go our way. And it's probably going to be the same way this year in our section, where if you can get to that second, third round, you're playing a team that's capable of going to Madison. It makes it a lot of fun, but it makes it a lot of stressful as well.
You were fortunate enough to get all the way to Madison and come home with a gold trophy last year. So you know what it takes to win 5-6 games in the tournament. If things go the Dons' way, what really worked over the next 3 weeks for your team?
Well, I think, it's coach speak, but we have to make shots. The games we shoot the ball well, I think we're very difficult to beat. And I think we have to hold teams to 1. That's been a weakness of ours, especially against teams of size, the Auburndales, the McDonald's. If we can hold teams to 1 shot and really embrace defensive effort and rebounding as a group, that's going to take us a long way. But if we give up extra possessions and we don't make shots, then anybody can beat us. And that's kind of the way our season's gone. But it's exciting. I think we've really kind of maintained a level of poise that is needed, especially at this time of year. And I don't think we have boys that are going to get too rattled. They know that expectations probably weren't to make a deep run. Which is a lot different than last year, because last year, you're number 1 and you're picked to win the whole thing going in. It feels like any loss will be a complete failure. Whereas this year, you're kind of playing with house money. They can't take those things away. And let's just see how much fun we can have and be a really tough out. If somebody's going to beat us, let's make it so they beat us and we didn't beat ourselves.
Yeah, and we mentioned at the top that there's this razor-thin line between you guys and Alma Center Lincoln. Actually very meaningful, because that means that next Saturday we might have Alma Center having to make the long trip up to Marshfield. And you have a great home court advantage over there, Coach. So congratulations and best of luck. We're obviously cheering for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a tough group. I wanted to know, I think Royal is undefeated, and they're a 2 seed.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the math was on that, but I got to think that's one of the first times that's ever happened where an undefeated team got a 2 seed. So we definitely have our work cut out for us, starting already next Friday against a very good Assumption team or a team from New Lisbon that knocked them off, and hopefully we're ready.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had a response to Colton Wilson on X, Coach. You can see that about Potosi and Royal. Lastly, for me, I just want to verify the schedule. I know you'll have a conference crossover game on Saturday. When do you find out how that will all shake out, or have you already found out who your opponent will be on Saturday?
I think that no matter what happens, we will play Regis at 1 o'clock on Saturday. When teams tie for a conference championship, they punch in some numbers just to decide who plays that first and second place game. I think we would be the second place game no matter what. And if we would lose tomorrow, we'd be tied with Loyal for second, but we would win that tiebreaker and either way play at 1 o'clock on Saturday.
All right, very good. On the road to Gilman on Monday, wrap up regular season Saturday, and then into the playoffs for Joe Konieczny and his Dons on Friday, March 7th. Coach, good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks for the coverage, guys. I really appreciate all you do.
You got it always. All day, they say. All day around here on that kind of thing.
What a great coach. There are very, very few coaches who would win a state title and then lose 8 or 9 of his guys and then come back with kids that did not even get minutes. Most of them got 0 minutes last year.
Some were on the JV.
Yeah, exactly. Watch their teammates, obviously, go on this run and then come back with a 2 seed. Absolutely impressive.
Potosi Royal. So Royal's issue is they're just in, I guess for them, the wrong sectional. It's the real issue. Potosi's seed score, Dan. I know you and I are math nerds like this. 6-4-2-5. Royal 6-4-2-3. That was the closest one that we had seen across the state.
0.02 of a point.
Yeah.
Where head-to-head would have come into play if they played each other.
Yeah, what Royal needed, or I get, again, it's tough to look at it in just one game because it's all 20 games. But Royal would have needed just one other team they played to win just one more game, or one team Potosi played to have beat that lost one more game. I mean, it's such a small number that you can't even see it with your eyes. That's how small the number is.
Hey, but we got it right. Ding! Fist bump. Yeah.
Absolutely. Folks on the chat are. Some people are going to have to leave here. Just give me a chance for that. I don't know what else to do. They paid $1 and they thought it was fun to say something derogatory for $1.
I'll
take your $1 though.
we are almost to the end of the show.
What? I mean, I've got my second wind. I can go till midnight now. We had joked about that beforehand, but I'm ready to go. We've got one lonely old coach left to go. Go ahead, Katie. Coach may answer the phone.
You're calling him old?
Early. Yep, I am. I think he's older than I am, so I think I can do that. But we're back to Division I. We've had such so fortunate to be able to talk to these coaches around the state and so many number 1 seeds, and we're going to end it with a number 1, Kettle Moraine Lasers. I got to call a Lasers game this year.
Really good team this year.
Yeah, they played extremely well in the game against Nicolay that I called over at the Fiserv, and
that's a fun game.
And that's where we're going to start this talk with Coach when he comes on here, and Katie will give us the thumbs up here.
We're going to get some chicken quick.
Just a moment. Dan's going to get chicken, and I am going to stay right here and talk to Kettle Moraine Lasers head basketball coach Brian Richert. Coach, congratulations on a great season. It's ended with you as the number 1 seed come playoff time. Just tell us about the reward of being the number 1.
No, I appreciate it, guys. It is very rewarding. I think my kids deserve it. They stayed focused. To go 23-0, you have to have that certain mindset. And I give all these kids credit because they kept their minds and focused on the defensive end, and that's our identity. And I just give them all the credit in the world.
I got to call your game over at the Fiserv against Nicolay. What I noticed most was just the team continuity. How have you got these guys to play together so well this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we preach. I got a great coaching staff, and it's something that we knew going into the season that we don't have the Division I athletes, so to speak, and we knew that we had to play with 5 guys playing together at all times on both ends of the floor, and these kids just bought into it, and I give them credit for buying it because it's not easy when you're having success as a program for everyone to buy in. Unfortunately, sometimes you live in the me generation right now, but these kids really, truly care about each other and care about each other's success. And I just give them all the credit.
I take a look at your conference and, by and large, and I want your reaction here. You get to, somewhat steer clear of maybe any potential conference opponents. And is that in your section, is that a advantage or disadvantage?
It's an advantage, to be honest with you, because, I think someone said it earlier, to beat someone 3 times, and we're so familiar with each other in the conference. So, just to have some new blood, so to speak, just a new team to try to battle. I like that, even though I got all the respect in the world, and I wish our conference teams all the best. But I do like playing some other teams this late in the year. We beat each other up all during the conference and all season. So I just think new opponents is always fun.
Coaches are always looking for something for their guys to get better at. Free throw shooting is an easy one to get after these guys with. But Thursday, Waukesha South. What are you looking for out of your guys? What will tell you at some point on Thursday that these guys are ready for the playoffs?
Well, it's senior night, so it's going to be a special night, a very emotional night. So I'm looking forward to it. I think the main thing that we're going to get out of this is where are we mentally? Where's our mindset going in? What can we do to prepare for our first playoff game? And we're going to treat Wausau South as it's a playoff game. I mean, you almost have to. So, we're going to take it to them. We're going to do everything we can. We got all the respect in the world for them. They're playing well right now. They're in our region. So, we just got to treat it like another opponent, and we're going to treat it like a playoff game.
As we take a look at your playoff bracket, you'll take on the winner of 17 seed Madison East and 16 seed Watertown. That'll be at your place on Friday, March 7th. Assuming you're able to get past the 16 or the 17 on the short turnaround game. Next thing would be the next day on Saturday. Who do you rely on your staff to help you get ready for, in this case, either Beloit Memorial or Middleton?
Oh wow, that's a tough question. I got such a great staff. I got two of the best assistant coaches in the world. So, we'll divide it all up. We're already on it. We met already this morning. We had a big gathering as the coaching staff and as a team. And we're already on it. I already got coaches already texting me getting film on each of those opponents and scouts. And we're taking our turns on who's doing what. So, right now it's all hands on deck, to be honest. It's not just going to be one person. It's going to be all of us now. I even have my head JV coach, Coach Kettle, that's involved right now. And we're just, as a staff, we're just going to attack this together.
Come playoff time, you need your guys to, I guess I'll start this way. During the regular season, you're looking for your guys to have experiences, put them in situations, put them in positions. That's what helps them get ready for playoff time. You took your guys to the Fiserv to play against that Nicolay team. Just tell us about the motivation for you to put your guys in that kind of situation and hopefully to pay dividends come playoff time.
Yeah, not only did we have the opportunity to play against a great team, but to play in a big venue like that, big floor, big lights, big stage, I just thought it was going to prepare us for big games. And, at this time of the year, when it comes to playoff time, when it's lose or go home, you have to put your kids through some battle testing games. And I just thought that was a great experience for us. It got to see where our mindset was on a big stage and just to prepare them on a big court. And just to really see where our leadership was in that game. So I was really, really happy with our senior leadership that game and just how they prepared and their approach to it.
I happened to talk to Roman Thompson after the game. I probably could have talked to a number of guys, but I remember vividly he telling me that experience and getting to play on the floor that he watches the Milwaukee Bucks play on, and I think that really pays off for you and your guys in the long run. Coach, I've got Dan Ross next to me, basketball expert in his own right. I know he's got a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on a great season. The number one seed, very well deserved. We have a little bit of a shout out from Elijah in our chat, who has been able to do a couple of your games this year, and say he says that you're one of the most balanced teams in the state, and I tend to agree with that. My question actually has nothing to do with your playoff bracket. How far away do you think we are from having 8 Division I teams make it to state? I think it's something that pretty much everybody wants to go back to. And as somebody who has Waunakee and Verona inside of the sectional, all really good teams, how far do you think we are away from having 8 instead of just 4? Because we lose a lot of really good teams in sectional finals.
We do, actually. Yeah, I think that's something that the WI needs to come together. The coaches got to come together. I think that's probably the approach that a lot of coaches like myself would like to see. I mean, it's such a great experience for the kids, and I just, I don't like the fact that you got some great teams that don't even have the chance and make it to state because of their bracket situation. So, I'm all for that because I'm all for the kids and having that experience. So, hopefully the WI can get that figured out. And like I said, I'm all for that.
How hard do you think it would be for kids today to play 3 consecutive games on the big floor? Do you think that that's taken into consideration, or do you think the kids are fine with it?
I do, but they're young. I mean, these are 17, 18-year-old kids, and to me, I just think it really defines who your team is. If you got to play 3 games, you can't just rely on your key guys. I mean, now your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th guy has got to step up, and how you prepare as a coaching staff. So I just think it really defines the true meaning of a champion, because now you're using you're practically your entire team.
I think I would have a hard time even getting up and down the floor. I couldn't imagine playing.
No, I hear that.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you spending some of your Sunday with us. We look forward to watching you come playoff time. Again, Coach Brian Richert and his Lasers, number 1 seed. They will first take the playoff floor on Friday, March 7th. Coach, best of luck.
Good luck, Coach.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, that was 9.
9 coaches.
9 coaches. So congratulations are in order.
We had 8 girls
that was
coaches,
about 9.
I think, right?
Yeah. Well, it seemed like it was just a few, and we could have maybe even done more. Curt Schmidt, Adam Jacobson, Mike Schalow, Chad Brieske, Chris Fischer, Dan Garrett, John Schurk, Joe Konieczny, and Brian Richert all joining the show. Dan, as we always do, I'm going to give you last word, but I'm going to go first here. One thing that stuck out to me through this playoff bracket Sunday, I guess is for lack of a better phrase to put on it. I look again in Division 3, and what a situation there. You got Milwaukee Academy of Science. They're the number one. They are only just a couple of points, though, ahead of Freedom. So we talked about the scientist earlier. I agree with Coach Agape Keys, what he and his guys said earlier this morning, that only they can beat them. I think that's true, but Freedom will be there. The number 3 ranked team, Racine St. Catherine's, is the 2 in that same group.
Yep.
And the number 5 ranked team, Racine Lutheran, is, again, the 5 ranked team. They're the 3 seed. So you got the 1, the 2, and the 3 ranked 1, 3, and 5. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's what geography does, right? Mm-hmm. They're all kind of in the same area, and there's just not enough teams throughout the entire state to kind of make up for it. They can't really put the line between
and I'm not even arguing that they're all grouped together, but just what a fantastic high performing group that's going to be, and you figure who comes out of that has got a leg up at the Kohl Center. Yeah,
I mean, that's a regional final, right?
Yeah, the number 1 and the number 5 team in Division 3 is a regional final.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Last word, Dan Ross.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of talk online right after these brackets are released. A little bit last week, but the boys' brackets have a lot more eyes on them for whatever reason, more fans. And I think the state did a really good job seeding these teams. I think people will always complain, but we have brackets that have nonpartisan view to this. It's all mathematical. And for those that are upset about your seed, you have an opportunity to go out and win it on the court. Yeah,
show why they were wrong and you were right. Yeah, chasing perfection, that's a fool's errand, chasing perfection, but chasing improvement, that's a much better goal, a goal worth striving for.
Yeah, and the head-to-head, it came into account on the girls last week. It came into account today. So these little improvements really matter. They really do.
Yeah, and that was a big one this time. All right, again, thanks to all the coaches for contributing parts of your Sunday to this show. Katie Lecton on production. Dan Ross, my name's Jason Zaleski. A full slate of games tomorrow on Zaleski Sports. Check out the full schedule at ZaleskiSports.com.
Tournament week.
Have a great day, everybody. Girls on Tuesday, playoffs, baby.